Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all, but this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is when you get back up when you fall. You better get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up. You witnessing a champ in the making, fueled by your passion for greatness. Yeah, but adversity and bad situations meet us in the middle of the paths that we taking. But it's what you do after that makes men. Will you quit or will you stand up and face it? Tell me, do you have what it takes to swing back when this life asks for the fade? Can you tell me you'll adapt to the change when a punch lands and it puts you flat on your face? After you wake, will you stand up and say, get mad, hit back, lit match to the flames? Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all, but this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is when you get back up when you fall. You better get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up.
soul. 'Cause I know that I need them. Now every other weekend I'm in West LA to flash my sweaty in a Mercedes spray. I gave those bonnets to the same soul. Storm paid for, competitive. Oh. I see boy with diamonds on my frozen soul. Spending all my money on expensive clothes. What's it take to get me on the radio? So down for me, goddamn so down for me. Trending with the cool kids. I wear it if the shoe fits, yeah. Designer brand exclusive. I wear it once and lose it for the next best thing. One quick slip and then I'm out of frame. No one really seems to care though. Got an ego, can't explain. No. Icy boy with diamonds on my frozen soul. Spending all my money on expensive clothes.
fact, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Belly of the beast. There were days where I barely had sleep, but I had to work more than competition. I can't live like the opposition. Living everything I dreamed of, doing everything you think of. The way I work, I'm on the brink of doing everything you dreamed of. Only aim for perfection, ain't no half stepping. I'm gonna take you back, spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. In the city, plenty havoc causing. Do or die, it's either all or nothing. Best believe I'm leaving out with something. Anytime I got the crowd jumping, throwing raves, you know they fist pumping. I'm the king of dysfunction. What would you do if you had my life? Work like me, had them stripes. Would you go hard just to have that ice? Lot of dudes still trying to have that price. In a yo, cooking about to add that spice. Nowadays, dudes never had that fight. When the first boy better burst your
المكان فكالفين دامي بيحاول تضغط على
فعل روب المخطبوط العراق موجود معانا ليخلص بالفعل تواجد الايسبورت
تكسر الوضع تاع اوبا حاليا على غرد لوحده بصراحه الوضع هذا الليد لم يكن في مكان مناسب. سيكتور يا سيكتور يا سيكتور يا سيكتور.
Welcome here to the second day of the second Super Weekend here at the PMPL Arabia Full Split. My name is Highland Wolf. If you're just joining us, we have a fully packed day of action here. 5 games for our top 16 qualifiers at this Super Weekend so far. If you want to get in on the action and let us know who your favorite team is starting off in the beginning of today, do so using the hashtag PMPL Arabia and get involved in the conversation on YouTube, Facebook, or also on TikTok, letting us know, as we say, who's your favorite team? Who are you rooting for? Who do you think can get the chicken dinners today? But it's not just myself. Highland Wolf, of course, on the desk today. I'm joined once again by the beautiful Monica. How are you doing this? What will be the start of our weekend here?
I am so excited to be here. I mean, we brought all the action yesterday, right? And we had that, everyone loves a comeback story, right? We saw the 3 teams that didn't qualify from last Super Weekend come in with 3 chicken dinners, 1 apiece yesterday. So I am just so excited to be here and to continue seeing what these teams are going to do today.
Of course, we have, as we say, our 16 teams, but if you're wondering how it got here, well, we have to check out a bit of the format, of course, Monica, too, where, of course, our teams fought through the weekdays, and now we're in the Super Weekends, where our top 16 are fighting for 5 matches each day, and we're going to be fighting, as we say, for 3 days each weekend. We're on the second day, if you're wondering, and how that will equivalent to the finals, well, what the teams accumulate the points over our 3 Super Weekends, then the top 16 out of all of our 20 come through to the finals, sorry, should I say, where there's going to be 6 matches, Monica, across another 3 days of action.
Yeah, we are on the second Super Weekend out of 3 Super Weekends in total. So some of these teams, they've been here. Majority of these teams have been in both Super Weekends, accumulating a lot of points. So we're really keeping a watchful eye on those teams that qualified last Super Weekend and didn't make it this weekend, right? And then the ones who were here this weekend. So definitely a lot of opportunities. I love including 20 teams into this. We're able to see so many players, so many more teams than just the standard 16, and a lot more levels of competition.
And of course, we are fighting on a long haul tournament here this time, Monica. And we check out the calendar for what will be, as we say, in our second week of competition. It is the 1st of July, should I say? We're in July now. Yeah. Can you believe it? And we're going to into our 3rd week shortly after, where, of course, you have to keep in mind Wednesday, we won't have that break day. So all the teams going to be fighting through 5 days of action before at the end of July this month. We will have our finals across the 21st to the 23rd of July, where we will crown our PMPL champion.
We're going to see that mental endurance come out from some of these players. So not having that day off, like we mentioned yesterday, it's going to be the long haul for them, that kind of marathon next week, Jake. So, I mean, I'm ready to see these teams and how they can keep up.
Of course, that prize money, though, that's how they have that motivation to keep up, Monica, as well as, of course, that championship result. But it's a $2,500 going to every one of these teams minimum. But, of course, we are in the Super Weekends, which means every single game, Monica, a team win and get that chicken dinner. They also get a bonus $1,000 per match if they can get that chicken dinner, as we say. Of course, the finals prize pool on your right of your screen. We kind of leave it aside right now because that's for later in the later weeks of July.
I've seen some tournaments where maybe there's only prize pool in the finals, right? So this is going to give money and cash prizes all throughout the tournament. So we're keeping the level of competition as high as possible. And we've seen the teams, I mean, all the ones who won yesterday and in the previous Super Weekend, each one of them getting $1,000. And some of those teams, they've gotten it multiple times.
Yeah, right. And we talk about some of those teams who got those chicken dinners yesterday, Monica. And I think we start off with, of course, our new teams to the Super Weekend, which were Sky, Rocket, Cur 12, and also Falcons, who all came with a bang here, Monica, a chicken dinner apiece.
It was really surprising because the teams that didn't qualify, like you said, these are the 3 teams that didn't qualify last Super Weekend. So this is the first time they played in Super Weekend. So I bet they took the weekend off, really, I mean, off as in, mentally refreshing, reviewing the VODs, seeing where their previous mistakes were that caused them not to qualify, and really turn things around. So, I mean, great start for them, and we're seeing the overall now. And this is the overall accumulated only from the Super Weekends, not including the weekdays, to try to qualify for finals.
Yeah, of course, these are where the points matter. In GEEKAY, really churning a result ahead of the rest of these teams. Of course, through that 2nd to 8th position, Monica, though, that's where it's really tight. Only 18 points difference from Twisted Minds down to R8.
And NIGMA Galaxy, I mean, this is a team that we're a little bit shocked in how they haven't been quite performing that high. But when you have a team that is so strong, it has performed well in the past, we just set our expectations high, right? So even if they aren't doing their best, it's in relation, it seems like they're not doing so well. But even without a chicken dinner, they are sitting at 3rd place, only 1 point behind Twisted Mind. So doing, beyond, even though they haven't been able to close out a match, still being consistent enough to make their way to the top.
And of course, that's what we're looking for in these veteran teams who, of course, have needed that improvement. We've seen that through in the 2nd Super Weekend. Also reach out, I think, to those other likely teams of YALLA and R8, who are, again, as we say, those veterans in that top page. But the 2nd page here, as we have, are the rest of our teams. Now, keep in mind, some of them aren't competing, but you look down towards the only one who actually are competing 20 games so far. But you can see the problem, Monica. They are behind teams that have played less games than them.
Yeah, definitely. What you touched on, the teams that aren't playing this weekend, that's going to be OOREDOO Thunders, CONQUEROR, Iraq, 90th Minute, and then VISTA Gaming, which will be on the next page. These are the 3 that are not in this weekend, Super Weekend, so they're not gaining any more points. They're locked in for 141, 119, 100 points, and everyone below them, even around them, are looking at them as a benchmark to get more points than them.
Yeah, and as we say, a couple of those teams, I think not just the only one, but also CONQUEROR Iraq, right, going to be one of those teams. Also, should I say not CONQUEROR, but also POWR, actually, should I mention, also another one of those squads who, as we say, are looking to get those more points today, who didn't really have that standout performance that we were looking for in yesterday's matches. Now going to play up to a total of 30 matches through the Super Weekend, expecting them to kind of double those results on average at the 15 games that these other teams have played.
POWR had one of the most insane league plays this previous week. They were 1st place all throughout Monday and Tuesday until the very last match, where I want to say it was Road to Glory that stole that last 1st place spot from them overall. So POWR, I mean, it's almost 2 completely different lobbies, right? In league play, because you're playing against I'll say bottom feeder teams, were the ones that, maybe a little bit weaker than some of the top teams that weren't able to qualify, right? And maybe it's a little easier to win out matches or to get those points in the earlier half of the week. But once you get into Super Weekend, these are at least this week's top 16 teams, right? And you're playing against a much higher caliber lobby.
Exactly, and of course, when we take a look at that final page, though, that's, as we said, where SKYROCKET, KO12, FALCONS are as well. Of course, VISTA, keep in mind, haven't made 2 Super Weekends, so the only team to get off the board. But these ones beginning that journey, though, FALCONS, I think, stepping up alongside SKYROCKET, but KO12, minus, I believe, their 2 good games that they had on Miramar and towards that last Erangel game, Monica, it didn't look that great of a day for them.
Yeah, this was KO12. I think I know they came in off of PMCO, right? That finished literally 20 hours before PMPL even started. So maybe they had that. We talked about mental exhaustion. They needed that endurance, having played, 1 tournament PMCL and then having to automatically switch gears and play in a much higher lobby like PMPL. I think that fed into why they didn't qualify for the first weekend. But these 3, I mean, they're looking at the only one that's only at 89 points, I think, which is well within striking distance.
Yeah, and as we say, of course, we've got another 5 games too, Monica, where these teams are going to have to fight for those points, as we say. But, well, how do you energize yourself up for those points? You've got to have the one and only Monster Energy, the official energy drinks partner for the tournament, Monica. And these teams going to need to be energized because it's another long haul day for them.
Yeah, having playing yesterday all day and playing today all day and tomorrow as well. That is a lot of PUBG Mobile for these teams. So hopefully they keep their energies high, like you said, keep their minds sharp and perform as best as they can.
And the psychological aspect as well, in terms of that mindset, as you said, that must also strain on them because now not only they've been playing one weekend, but they're halfway through the tournament, Monica. They've been playing a lot of games. Then does that affect them from a mentality point of view?
Yeah, I think it starts to run together, right? I think at the beginning of the week, especially if you're coming off, like a 1 day break or something, teams are much more crisp, right? They're like more conscious about their communications, more about their rotations. Even, hey, we're gonna clear out this building, check every single corner. Once you get into, I'd say like 10 matches or even beyond that, even today on the second day, it gets a little bit, okay, we're doing kind of very repetitive stuff, and sometimes your mind might go blank, right? You're just like, okay, check in the corners. Maybe you missed a corner because you're just kind of breezing through it because you're doing the same things over and over, but that they're so important. And these little mistakes can result in fatal errors that they might go out too early in a match.
Yeah, of course, these teams need to keep up their spirits, keep up their mindset. As we said, we've got 5 games here for us, and I believe we can take a little bit look here at Monica at those overall maps that we've got here. And while we get them up for you, I think I want to talk a bit more about yesterday too. There we go. We've brought them up as it will be our Erangel sandwich. But to note, of course, back as we said yesterday, these teams definitely had a lot of change when it comes to the overall results. I think Miramar definitely changed a lot of these teams' perspective, considering that actually this week so far, it has been very straining. It's been a lot of Erangel, but also a lot of Sanhok for these teams. And that's definitely going to create a lot of strain, as we said, on that durability of those mindset of teams.
Yeah, we saw teams like Road to Glory having a just completely dominating first part of this week during league play. And I want to say it was because Sanhok was really, really one of their strongest maps. And we saw that, instead of, last week we saw Erangel, Miramar, right? No Sanhok during league play. But this week we saw, we saw 2 Sanhoks, I think the first day, 3 Erangel, and then it was flipped where it was 3 Sanhoks and then 2 Erangel in the second day. And I mean, they did so well then. They got 2 chicken dinners on Tuesday, and they did phenomenal the last game of Sanhok as well. And they even won yesterday's Sanhok too. So, I mean, everyone is just, if you're going into Sanhok, I'm like, I want to stay as far away as possible from Road to Glory.
In Road to Glory, I think overall have looked like one of the strongest teams. But when we talk back, as we said, about that top 8, note to, of course, mention it, as we said, the 2nd to the 8th position, Monica, only 18 points separating those teams. That's barely more than a chicken dinner. And we've already seen volatile standings from yesterday's series of games. We are expecting, I assume then, that these teams are going to change their results once more?
I think so. I think these teams that did really well yesterday are going to have a lot of confidence going into today. Hopefully not too much confidence, because we've seen some of those teams get bitten in the butt yesterday where they may have, I believe the SKYROCKETs, they won the first match of the day and then went out in 16th position the next match because maybe a little too overconfident or maybe some other factors. So hopefully they because maybe a little too overconfident or maybe some other factors. So hopefully they can be a bit more consistent instead of just yo-yoing up and down the standings.
But of course, it's not just Miramar and Sanhok that we've got to keep in mind. We are still, as we said, keeping 3 Erangels per day. And the notability that we have to mention here, Monica, is that Erangel is the core of all of these teams. Now, you're looking towards the teams that have been playing Erangel the strongest, and I think you're certainly looking towards some of those teams who play more towards the western side. NIGMA have had their moments, but you're certainly looking at the likes of, I think, R8 and also even likes of SKYROCKET have had these good, powerful games when the zone has shifted down to that South Island. What are we kind of expecting now from these teams, considering, as we say, that we played so many Erangel games?
I think when we came in at the very beginning, we saw a lot of them, and you told me this too. A lot of the meta is just, hey, people are very centralized in these Erangel matches, right? The first half is very like, hey, just find somewhere in the center or just a little bit off the center. I'm seeing a couple teams though from the outskirts. They kind of stay a little bit, on the edges, not overcommitting anywhere until the later part of the game. We saw that R8, they lingered outside of the blue zone or outside the circle for quite a while before coming into the circle, and that was one of the ones that they did win yesterday.
And of course, GEEKAY, another one of those strong teams, is we have to mention Monica playing through on Erangel, and I think a lot of pressure on GEEKAY as well. As we said, they've got themselves a lead now, about a 30 or so point difference ahead of that second place of Twisted Minds. Now, it's up to a lot of them to keep that lead intact. Of course, today is going to be another 5 games for them. But I also think, on the other hand, again, as you said, the hunger of those teams definitely can change a lot. But we aren't just looking at the top of the leaderboard. It's also, I think, that bottom end of the leaderboard. And not only these new teams coming into the weekend, but as we said, we've got the likes of the only one of POWR here, Monica, too.
The only one, if they keep going the same trajectory as they're going now, I want to say they started yesterday with was it 70 points? I think they started the day yesterday in overall, and they're now at 89. So they've only made 19 points in 5 matches. That's not even 4 points per match. So that is definitely not the performance you want to have. And they're going to start to feel the heat, especially with the 3 teams underneath them, Falcon, SKYROCKET, and Curd12, all getting a chicken dinner yesterday, and they're slowly creeping up behind them. So the only one, I think they're definitely the ones in the hot seat right now.
Yes, of course, as we are very close to our first game here, going to be jumping in onto that playing path as we're ready to go, Monica. It's Erangel up first, as we said, and it's coming down from that quarry side all the way up to Stelber Hill.
We have seen so much Erangel throughout this entire tournament. I don't think I've seen a more down the center playing path Highland Wolf, because here we go all the way through Pochinki, through school, all of that. I don't foresee anyone doing those alternative drop spots. And the one team that I've seen kind of go in different directions or haven't gotten a lot of plain luck was Major Pride. Remember the first game yesterday, they had a drop in Novo crates, which actually the circle ended up ending there. But I think it was just kind of new territory for them. It was just, I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but they actually went out really early that match.
And of course, it's not just, I think, about the playing path, which has been a very focused towards the south side yesterday. Now also the middle playing path gives a lot of leeway, I think, to these teams, more so than we saw in yesterday's matches. Of course, Major Pride actually changing it up once more, as we said, going again to that northern side. And I actually think it's been the changes overall this weekend have been so interesting to me. Not only Major, of course, switching their own spot, but they're also R8 back downwards in towards that Primorsk side, and even now SKYROCKET, who had chosen to go as the only team still towards the South Island, whereas that has been opened up more with some of the teams that aren't playing this weekend.
One of the teams that is not playing this weekend, though, is 90th Minute. And we saw this come out a little bit yesterday, where R8 has now taken up 90th Minute split. It's not quite as split as 90th Minute is, dares to go, where they send one kind of down on the Sovnaka military base island. So a little bit more contained in the main island part. We have a very central position, though, or central circle to start things off. And I tend to see teams like NIGMA Galaxy, they know this general area very, very well. So if they can stay, if this keeps centering up closer to Pochinki, they could really be setting themselves up for a great game.
And that's the other half of it, though, Monica, is it NIGMA, they are a very passive team, and I think even more passive coming through this season. They often actually do let a lot of those teams around Pochinki bypass them and get a better position in Gatka before actually NIGMA do. So NIGMA playing a lot more slow, steady pace of the game, and I'm curious actually now that they're sending a lot of those 2 players inwards towards that Potato Hill very early. So a difference made by them potentially looking to try catch out a lot of rotations, maybe some more information of what these other teams around inside that farm area are actually up to.
It's just so interesting that if you look at other regions, teams that do land in that central position, like Pochinki, like Farm, etc., these are usually teams that are more just focusing more on getting into that center or off-center position in the circle at the very beginning stages of the game. However, we're not really seeing that from NIGMA Galaxy. They'll land Pochinki, wait there for 15 minutes, right, and then start trying to rotate into the circle.
And I think that has caused NIGMA a few problems. I think also the other problems have been, I think, particularly on that eastern side of Erangel, a lot of the later rotations have been punishing for a lot of those teams. Now, we're not going to get a majorly insane zone like we did in the first game, which did go down towards that Novo side. Instead, we're going to get a much more centralized playing path. But you have to, of course, keep in mind that that first phase zone still encompasses a lot of that South Island, Monica.
Still does, and you know our running bet is that at some point it is going to, you know, just have a hardship of the century and go all the way. One day, I did have a running joke with Imperium that if we set him up for that, he was going to chug a monster on stream if he it
did he
go
do
down.
that?
So
I was so hyped for it. If he doesn't do that, then
I think it did it once, but then I forgot to set up the bet that match. He's like, no, that doesn't count, and then
I see.
There
so
was
when
no
he comes
chugging.
back from his excursion out, I think that we're gonna have to get him back in. We're gonna have to have him chug a monster on the monster call out. That's exactly what we've got to do.
Yes, or order him a live bear to have alongside him along that grizzly bear.
That's true. I mean, we could always order a bear to his house. I mean, do they do that these days? I don't know.
I don't know. We will have to look and see. But getting back into here, we have Falcons going to Yaznaya. No surprise here. This is a spot that they've like to take. And when we're in the group stages in the league plays, we see Falcons. If they're not in the match, we see Road to Glory does end up dropping here too. So we have a lot of very scavenger teams here, where they identify where it is open, where the team that lands there is not in the lobby, and then they make that their new home for the match.
And also interesting that a couple of these other teams have begun to try create a bigger space of information for themselves. Now, Triple also on the lower end of the map have now moved up towards that kind of outside of Ferry Pier in towards Pachinki's side, following along that coastal line. So they will have information of teams coming from that Pachinki area like Twisted Minds are doing, also now like the Only One are doing. But it's for the most part a lot of quiet beginnings for these first phase and these teams. Is SKYROCKET currently looking at them down on that south side, and I think SKYROCKET, one of these teams, Monica, that have a lot of leverage in terms of where this zone goes, because again we've seen them not only utilize that western bridge, but also the eastern bridge has been utilized by them before, and it's all based on where that zone really goes.
I think SKYROCKET's there identifying that, you know, there is a possibility it could still come back to the military island, so they're going to stay there for now, because you don't want to commit across the bridge too early for it just to come back. Now you're rotating twice across a very dangerous bridge, so whatever you do, try to isolate it to only one time that you're putting your players in such a dangerous position. Right now, though, they're still just kind of looting up, Pride over, shifting into the hospital area, still looting on up. They're just on the edges of the circle, but I know they are well aware there's nobody who loots in their general direction, so they're going to have a lot of time, a lot of free, at least they're not going to see anybody for the next couple of minutes.
And on, of course, on that northern side, we do also have the likes of YALLA. Keep in mind, RTG also making their rotations through. The only one taking a more scenic route, though, on the south side, have now taken up that very peninsula on the coastal line, which I like actually by the only one, because it's setting up, as we said, for that possibility that the second phase could again shift down to that South Island. So the only one taking a lot of control. The only arguable issue that I say that the only one may have right now is that other teams may look for his position too. Now, Twisted Minds could do the same. Also, I think NIGMA are another team that tend to go down this route if it does, again, second phase go down towards that side.
The best kind of teams are the ones that are so proactive that they're thinking multiple circles ahead, right? You're not just thinking, okay, circle shifted here, we're going to go here, and then not really thinking beyond that. It's like a chess game. You're thinking 4 turns ahead. If the circle shifts over here, you know, 3 circles from now, I'm going to set myself up here in the present, so I have open rotations, you know, the position where I'm able to collect as much information as possible, so I'm not blindly mad dash rotating through multiple teams and having no idea what's going to happen, because you're probably going to lose multiple members on the way.
And to continue on that point, Monica, it's better proactivity of getting that early position, of getting the information set up, whereas a lot of these teams who are still outside on that blue are going to have to play naturally more reactive because they are coming in later at a time. They will have a better position in terms of the outskirts of that circle, which will be naturally less contested, but you don't have that information, and that's where the reactivity comes in. You're going to have quicker ability to set up for those team fights, whereas teams already in the center, yes, they may be more prone to those team fights, but they are much better set up to do so.
It's so interesting here that NIGMA Galaxy lands in Pochinki. They have NASR who lands in the school apartments area, and NIGMA Galaxy, they saw, oh, central position, we're not going to move at all, we're just going to continue to loot. Has actually allowed NASR to rotate around them all the way onto the same hill that they want to have. Circle centers up, this time once more right onto Pochinki. So we're going to have that massive city in the middle. We could have another crazy city finish potentially, and you know that ends in just absolute chaos, especially with how uneventful the beginning of this first game has been. I don't think we've lost a single player yet. That just sets it up for such a more action-packed end game.
But I'm hoping, though, that these teams, Monica, they don't go for Pochinki right now, because we are, of course, only in that second phase. So by going into Pochinki, these teams would lock themselves into a city, would lock their position where they can't actually react to those next zone shifts and come back out of the city, because naturally teams will be around that location. So I think for teams like NIGMA, it's good to kind of get a position outside of the city, where you're looking at maybe if you're not on the outskirts and getting a great position such as Potato Hill, well, you can still get the church position of Pochinki itself, still get that high ground there, or also on the opposite end to the farms on more of that eastern exit to Pochinki, also again lifts up to that high ground of the hills beside it. So having an outside position, much more valuable, where you can make that rush down with your vehicles if need be, but you can also avoid that city if it does shift away phase 3.
Where NIGMA Galaxy is sitting safe by Pochinki, we have a absolute cluster in the farm area. How many teams are in this general area? Everybody wanting a piece of this one. 4K now losing one. We saw them in the vehicles. We saw them just kind of driving around with no sort of destination in mind. Their GPS must have lost battery because one has blown up now, and that's going to be the first casualty of the entire match.
Still only one lost for now, and it's already 10 minutes 11 into the game. Although it looks like Rad are in some trouble as Cur12, they are full sending it in, but they have one low member. Rex will not know this, so it goes back behind the edge of the wall, but it doesn't hide them from the bullets of Cur12, and they will take down the elimination anyways. Up to one for them, and another through on that elimination feed itself. The rest of Rad completely split now as they have lost Rex, but cannot really counter-engage. Now Kato also going to be knocked by Falcons off the other side, and it's a disaster for Rad. So split, but getting picked apart.
Cur12 did so well in isolating one of the members of Rad and forcing that 1 versus 2, well, 2 versus 1 actually having the number in their favor, now putting Rad down to only 2. That was very unfortunate because Falcons, like the Predators they are, from up above watching below. Now we see the only one, the one in the hot seats with SKYROCKET, the team directly below them in the standings, trying to overcome them.
A big surprise knock from the behind as SKYROCKET didn't even know it was coming. Allows now to engage through. Ziad now takes down Rip as well, and it's a 2-for-0 trade. Currently is the only one actually gave up this location slightly for the town side beside that peninsula, but have decided to go in later as Wanted, trying to return the fire onto Problems, but gets behind their own building for now. Nade should go wide as well as NASR taking down POWR in the elimination feed too.
They're going to be in the blue set. This is where Conquer would be if they were in this lobby. And 7 are all of them playing Ring Around the Rosies, as now it's going to be only Easy trying to make his great escape. All of his teammates knocked or already flushed out. As we do see POWR, while surprisingly being the first ones taken out of the match. Everyone keeping an eye on that circle as the charge shifts over into the GEEKAY area.
Very good though for Easy. Will now have the zone go away from the current fight, so as much as they will lose the rest of their entire team, SKYROCKET maybe can salvage this with a solo player and look for those placement points. Of course, Easy gonna get into the zone now SKYROCKET, so will have that advantage for themselves. And you're really also looking at the other hand now of can SKYROCKET survive, but can also these other teams coming in make it into? Because you are looking at the later rotation teams now, Triple making it further in, and is the only one who spent so long here trying to have a position inside of that south side for that fight. They actually now give way to the likes of Triple, to the likes of Rad stepping into that zone before them.
To the delight of NIGMA Galaxy, they've had NASR now taking a fight with R8, one of the victors from yesterday. NASR jumping over the little broken wall, getting the knock that he needs, finding a second one, and just stopping his shots as they runs just inside, trying to go for the flush as well. But I mean, this is a lot of information to try to interpret as this fight continues on.
Misses that nade through the window, and that's crucial for NASR. Now had to move out of the way of their own utility, and that gives way for R8 to counteract, move further in onto the fight. And you can see SK Ida was there behind them, but Prestige will go down in the back end for them, and that's not what you want to see. SK Tun still locked in combat versus Batika, taking the shots, gets behind the wall in time, but that's brought crucial moments for NASR, Gringo, and Ali, who still desperately needed to come in to support Batika here.
If only bullets could bend, because the angles were just not playing in the favor of R8. Batika throwing a utility though, and self-grenades himself. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but that was definitely a fatal error, as now R8 very split up here with a casualty to revive of their own.
I'm just so confused. That's the second nade in a row that Batika has messed up in this fight. I mean, maybe Judgment may be array here, but for that type of mistake to happen, not just once, but twice in the same fight, NASR really caught behind now. Batika, they used the smoke road there to get them across, but there is no way that was intentional.
Replay this time around. NASR at the beginnings of the fight. This is watching how POWR did go out this early that we were left scratching our heads. POWR just, again, just maybe they're driving literally blindfolded because they just can't seem to find any of these players. NASR did get one clutch in return, as it's going to be only one. I mean, they put up a decent fight, but it just wasn't quite enough, and they were taken out in 16th position.
All right, left it now a standstill because Batika had to move away. Bought the time for R8 now to solidify their own position in this zone. Will create the standstill on this fight as the zone closing in almost to phase 4 here already, Monica.
Phase 4 already. NASR, the saving grace for them was Triple Esports stealing the attention away in Highland Wolf. This is the second consecutive time the circle has shifted up into that GEEKAY northwestern side of the circle. Here we do have Kurd 12, the only one. Hazim on fire and running around the shack, but the only one. They're the ones that we were hoping could make something of this match, and they're going out way too early now.
But so did Kurd, and those extra elimination points so crucial for them. NASR now going to make the move first in onto the zone, going to risk it for the biscuit here. But Gringo, he might have been a lot more than they can chew as they have to go back under. Is SKYROCKET now also 4K rotating through? Ali going to be the only one that will get into a fruitful position here for the rest of NASR, but they are beginning to be surrounded by the rest as NIGMA just completely blowing up and come to them, and as quick as they appear, they disappear. Major Pride taking a win.
NIGMA Galaxy having the same fate as POWR that we saw. That was so surprising for them because this wasn't too far to rotate for them at all. But I think that delayed rotational time is what cost them their ticket back into the lobby. Triple Esports now taking up into the trenches of Chopsticks, not too far from Major Pride and GEEKAY Esports.
Of course, 4K almost losing that entire team in the gutter of the Chopsticks, so crucial that they didn't move all of their 4 players in, but they're caught in a rock and a hard place is Major Pride. Meanwhile, every time we go to them, another team drops a Monica, and it's 7 eliminations now for them, and they've still got the rest of that entire North Zone towards them.
Major Pride going for the major prize as they are collecting up those eliminations. NASR have found themselves 2 in a shack, way too high of occupancy, as R8 is also coming back behind them, trying to find their way into the circle. This is where everyone, like we had 64 at the beginning of this match, that stayed alive for so long. Now they are converging onto each other, and we're having a bloodbath on every side of the circle.
And Triple controlling those chopsticks is crucial, going to prevent a lot of the teams also coming into those chopsticks too. However, that may, in the event of a fight versus Triple, allow the rest also to come in if one team is brave enough to contest them. But the meanwhile, the rest of them are all seeming to be stuck. NASR, for example, stuck inside of his shed trying to blow utilities, but they have no vision. You can see those blind nades through the smoke are the only thing they have, and that now buys the time for all of those other teams inside the zone. As Twisted Minds caught on the edge of that though, trying to fight versus Kurtwell, who have already lost one member. A big drop, a big mistake as they crash the car behind them, and Twisted will continue to dodge out the vehicles. Finally, Dammy loses their life to the bullets, but now as Anas steps up, Mohammed is already out of there. They have lost the fight as Kurtwell left in shambles.
Dammy just couldn't seem to figure out which side of this tree to hide behind, because there are shots coming out from either R8 from down above or down below, or Kurt 12 from above. But as you saw, just evicted out of the area now, trying to focus, because that blue zone, it's coming hot and it's coming heavy. Yalla just a little bit further inside as well into the compound, as R8 is now making their desperate rotation on the back of this buggy, stopping just shy of the shack where NASR is hiding in.
Oh no, it's a disaster for Twisted Minds as they rotated all the way in onto Falcons. They've lost one vehicle, one does get in onto the zone, but as Anas is only going to be the sole survivor to this next phase. The road in amongst all of that zone, continuing to split the direction of those teams. It's not even a road really, it's a pathway and it's an open field around it.
Yeah, it's a dirt path to victory that everyone is trying to go down. We have R8 still tossing their utilities in the direction of NASR. Both of these teams, they're just on the edges of the circle, not quite within now, but none of their vehicles are going to be in play this time. But R8 has now been found by the likes of NASR, taken out in 11th position. But NASR, I mean, they got a little bit more to go, but no vehicles to use to make their quick rotation.
In GEEKAY, having that position inside of the zone moniker too, all still 3 players alive, but 1 have now the central spot. They have the compound in control of them. What can they not do right now? Triple trying to navigate their way out to the gutter, of course, on that map V2 are going to create a struggle, but the SKYROCKETs, they've been found, they've been spotted away by RTG, who take the single elimination, will find a sole survivor. But what can they survive off of it more so, is they have created that noise and everyone looking around them.
Seen a little bit of nervousness from SKYROCKET, because he definitely potatoed those first couple of shots that ended in his demise. Now NASR finding themselves any little nook and cranny in this completely open field. GEEKAY focusing their attentions onto them, but NASR, I mean, those vehicles were about to blow anyway, and that's exactly what GEEKAY did to them.
And that's the difficulty. You see how quickly, if you get caught out trying to rotate in on this open zone, that's what it ends up being. It's a quick drop. There's also Falcons going to lose their own vehicle. You saw the explosion. That's going to cost them, because they aren't quite really in a position in this zone to contest. They're still in that dirt path. It's going to be very open. So as much as those smokes protecting them now, you can see the shots coming through. Never alone dropping will be eliminated through as casualties do begin to surface.
Casualties all the way around. I'm not sure if any team besides Yalla still has their full man team. As Satan, he knows the smokes are there. That giveaway that somebody's hiding back over there, just really putting on his binoculars and trying to find any little inch of Yalla that he can. Falcons to the right though, they're going to be peppering them from the side, so Yalla is going to be really stuck in this spot, unable to escape.
And they've run out of room. The compound's gone away from them, so they're now left in the open. GEEKAY still holding up firm on their own shack, though. And it's a beautiful position. You can see getting those eliminations, getting those knocks left and right. It's GEEKAY on the victory path from the elimination feed. But Major Pride also up to 10 eliminations, and that zone goes up north towards the Monica. This is a big shift as they have now a compound there into their grasp. GEEKAY still have one building there of their own, but it's much less a powerful position.
Triple Esports finding the end of the chopsticks gutters that they can call home, and they've protected them for so very long. Road to Glory, looking across the circle, is getting so small now that you can really see the eyes of the whites of the eyes of all of your enemies from across the way. But Road to Glory, I mean, they got knocked here. That was very, very poor timing because they have 5 seconds to go before this next circle does start to shift in. Volt just clearing out some of the grasses here, but everyone's on their belly, Highland Wolf, and nobody is standing up in this end kind of circle.
And nobody really has the vehicles to navigate. Keep in mind, we saw explosions from those vehicles in 4K. That's the problem that lies on their screen, is how do you get in to that type of distance now in phase 6? Your life trying to make the run for it. Will find out Yusuf is punished through, and Falcons unfortunately reduced to that only one player is YALLA. Laden down on the smoke. They do get a bit closer, but the zone continues to trickle behind them as Falcons not so lucky. Falling away, but RTG, they may have also spotted YALLA. His life also going to fall down to GEEKAY, and they've already lost 2, they've lost 3, and they will quickly, all 4, lose their lives as GEEKAY clean up last.
Valiant attempt from YALLA, but just being in the middle of a field at this end places is not going to go well for them. Triple Esports now down to only 2, pushing up right ahead of Major Pride, and we saw how heavy of a killing machine Major Pride is at. Currently at 12 eliminations found so far, and having the skinny side of the circle, one of the best spots in this end zone.
Yen now stepping up, 12 so far for Major. They have roasted every single player, and they are ready and hungry, cooking up that chicken dinner. Road to Glory will be the next to fall, and we're into our final 5. GEEKAY have moved into their next compound, using that small line of buildings that they've got available to them. But there is an imposter. Anis from Twisted Minds is still in that last building, may create that upset, but for now, Triple are the main threat for Pride in front.
There's an imposter among us, and we're using all the clues that our teammates have told us to try to single this one out. This time, Major Pride, they've got quite a few hurdles to climb over. Like you said, Triple Esports right in front of us. 4K, that last solo player. Golden has been found out this time as well. The first nade comes out to open up this push from Major Pride into this end circle.
And here's come straight in, blow this head off the Triple, and now cut them down. But Clever will try their best, but it's GEEKAY who steal away the elimination point. Triple will also drop as we save the third, but not before Twisted Minds. And it's all down to GEEKAY and Pride, the final showdown for each of them, double digits worth of kills. But Major, they have to now move further in. GEEKAY have been now gifted the zone in phase 7, and it's up to now Major Pride to make the move finally further in.
GEEKAY has the advantage of having that kind of more area of the circle to rotate across. I wouldn't be surprised if one sent out wine. That's kind of their bread and butter, cut off the angles of Major Pride and keep them stuck in the corner outside the circle. We have Gaith up close and center. He's their entry fragger up onto the little watchtower, having that little vantage point and giving the information to the rest of his team, while on the other side is going to be Yen doing the exact same thing, trying to met it out, but the play zone's the one to put him down, and everyone is aware of this in the kill feed.
That's a big shift, though. They lost now their third man, down to only 2 solos either way, and Gaith will should at least find one, unless they can punish through their own. They have found Gaith, indeed, almost bring them down to asunder, but for now, they still keep themselves up, and the healing may come forward. Now Zatan stepping in to try relieve the pressure. Gaith going to dodge out that nade, barely missed on the edge of that foil wall, but for now, Guy's still alive. Will be able to chuck through another nade in front of Milky Way. Makes her own step further forward. Steps out of smoke. You can see for a moment, and that does reveal the position. And you can see the nades being immediately bombarded down to the position of Milky.
He was trying to choose his poison, either the grenades or the blue zone, and for that split second, he thought the blue zone looked just a little bit better. Satan, he has been sent out wide with the flank to try to cut off. And Major Pride, they're stacked right on top of each other. Only one angle that they have trying to take this fight against GEEKAY, as they're slowly running out of anywhere to hide. They're all on their bellies at the mercy of GEEKAY Esports.
It's a beautiful flag. Satan, as you say, this entire time has been sneaking behind the backs of Major Pride. They do find Gypho. Finally, they find the elimination knock that they do need. But the zone, it's still a problem, Monica. In 20 seconds, with now Satan in a position, Gypho will be revived. And I don't think there's a utility there to stop them. Major, they're trying to send it full in. They're going to use a flank of that hillside, but I don't think it's going to be enough. They lose one. Their Ragnar finds the other, and GEEKAY score first blood in a chicken dinner battle.
That was just a matter of GEEKAY had the cover, and all Major Pride could do was just a desperate. You saw them 2 in the open, 1 stacked up on top of the other, trying to just outgun the other 2 right next to him. But it was just that little broken down car that really made the game for GEEKAY Esports. So our #1 team on the overall standings has been pushed even higher after this first chicken dinner today actually.
Yeah, GEEKAY now going to be above that 200-point mark, Monica, making leaps and bounds for them as we check out those match rankings to see exactly how many points they did win. It's 28 in total, but equally matching those elimination points were Major Pride, still garnering for themselves 25 big ones.
The big ones really came out in the last, I would say, 10 minutes of the match. Remember, both of these teams, they really prioritized getting into that central position. And then after that, it was just GEEKAY in those compounds, watching as everyone trying to run on foot or rotate all around them, like YALLA, like NASR, etc. Just caught in the open and collected up on those eliminations. Major Pride, they also continuously just had a lot of eliminations fed to them, with teams just crashing up on the wayside on their compound as well. So great performance from both of these teams.
In triple as well, Twisted Mind is doing their best, as we said, to try find that position in that center mark, to try and survive outside of these other teams. NASR getting that third position, so crucial to keep up, of course, with GEEKAY, because they are in that second position. And of course, Road to Glory, YALLA, NASR closing out that first page of the leaderboard. But as we check out the second of that page of match rankings, Cur12 getting those 4 elimination points were beginning to look strong, but did just get caught out a lot like the rest of these teams in that second page. Falcons also the only one alongside them.
NIGMA Galaxy just continues to surprise us, and not in a good way. This was a circle that I was really expecting them to do really well, and landing in Pachinki, having it end just on the other side of the hill, right in the Gatka area. And I think they just took a little bit too long to rotate. I want to say it was towards the 10, 12, 15 minute mark when they finally let the vicinity of Pachinki to rotate in. And then I believe they were caught out by, was it Major Pride that took them out of the lobby?
Yeah, so we tried to rotate across that northern side and try and avoid, as we said, that southern kind of battle that was happening between a lot of those teams. Now, it was a smart idea, but as you said, it was a little bit late to get that rotation through. Major Pride capitalizing off of them as we check out our best oppo moments for that first game. And there are 8 starting versus NASR, but TK getting knocked did create a lot of issues, but not as much as that zone. Of course, Cur12 was only the beginning of all of that action.
12 though, they did fairly well for themselves. A lot of aggression coming out from them to only make the second half of the standing. Twisted Minds, it was such a messy fight here that Twisted Minds had Cur12 here. I think RA with a little helping hand to them though, and driving away Cur12 to allow Twisted Minds to go for a quick reset as well.
Of course, RTG stepping up, but this is where it comes in. You can see how flat that zone was. NASR exploded into nothingness, and Falcons fell. YALLA were very quick afterwards, and then came RTG. Triples turn into that zone too, but it was GEEKAY from that central spot, Monica. They had so many points of cover over them, but they were then able to utilize that cover they had to find those eliminations, and they went from very low to that end point where they had double digits, as we can see, 10 already.
And already, and we had the one, I mean, that was very fortunate for GEEKAY that Gaith was still able to get revived, because usually that's not really a possibility that late in the game. But again, that broken down car giving them the cover, and it was just GG's for GEEKAY.
No, GEEKAY, though, you take those wins how you want them, and surely going to be in a high position now. And I think that GEEKAY looking also in the road to qualification through just a second Super Weekend, Monica, to those finals. They are certainly on track to do so. But what those teams who aren't able to do so and get that money or that moment on track to be able to get to those finals, you really are kind of looking at now the teams behind them. And I think a lot of disappointment still coming through when it comes to the consistency of those bottom table teams.
Bottom table teams. We saw some moments of glory with chicken dinners from SKYROCKET, from Curd 12, and from Falcons yesterday. But this game, maybe they're still warming up a little bit because all three of those were found on the bottom half of the overall standings. Or
Yeah,
sorry,
of
this
course,
match
yeah.
rankings.
Yeah. And of course, I think not only them, but POWR, the only one we said, but not only these teams, the rest, as we said, on that second page, still struggling to try find their mark in that first game. Now, Miramar is going to be a short bit away, but we do get to see these overall rankings as well through from our first Erangel game. And while we wait, GEEKAY, of course, as we said, 219 points for them. Twisted Mind is still trying to keep up in line, but Major Pride with NIGMA's per 0-point game now in third position.
Remember, before this match, NIGMA Galaxy was in third place, right? They were 1 point behind Twisted Minds. And while GEEKAY did win the match, Twisted Minds, that was in second, they did finish in, I believe it was third place or so in that match. So both of these two top teams soaking up a lot of those points and preventing anyone down below from getting it. So with NIGMA Galaxy going out with 0 points, nothing found, it allowed Major Pride YALLA to climb up above.
And NASR as well, still trying to claw, of course, their way into that sixth position. 4K there with 159, who have, of course, keep in mind, dropped a lot from their top position that they led in beginning of the first Super Weekend. So to see if 4K will continue to slip on those overall standings, which has been the trend since that first day of play.
Road to glory. Unfortunately for them, it's not just full 5 Sanhok matches for them. Otherwise, they'd be way higher on the leaderboard. But 2 winner chicken dinners found so far in Super Weekends. Great stuff from them. It's just NIGMA, Galaxy, and NASR, both of these teams without any chicken dinners. And still at the very top, those will still consistent work from them. So if they can finally close out a match, I would expect to see them much higher.
And as we check out that next page as well at the overall rankings here, get to see who is, of course, leading that second path into the beginning of that relegation spot. The only one still there, of course, still to claw over 90th minute, 6 games after them. But R8 falling down, of course, to 9th position there too, was the other difference from that first game. And you can see still, even though this second page, about that 9th to 11th position between R8 and Triple, who are still competing here, are a close contest, especially considering Triple had a good game there.
We have the only one still just barely by threads, right, holding on to their 16th position. But fortunately for them, the teams directly below them, Team Falcons, Curd 12, and SKYROCKET didn't really make anything out of that match. Otherwise, I don't know, they could be shifted down to the 17th, 19th positions here. But we see 63 points now. It's going to be only, what, 20 some odd points left between the only one,
right,
Team Rocket.
And that's a concerning thing, is if you look to those points, you say, oh, well, Falcons aren't doing very well compared to the only one. But then you look at the game, and it's 15 games difference, and that's why Falcons need to, or should I say the only ones, need to get on track quickly because the rest are catching up. But if you want to catch up in your own rewards here in game, Monica, you can use Grizzly Bear Card Collection and join in on the fun. Join the card collection draw and win outfits. There's a chance to get all the pieces of an item in just one go, Monica.
One thing that Imperium had started was giving me random bear facts every time. Did he do that with you?
Yeah, he did. I remember it was bear facts.
He had a lot of bear facts, and one that I just found out was that, you know, that hump on the back of a grizzly bear that they see? That's actually a massive muscle, okay? So maybe that's another thing with the suit, you know, a little extra protection, just kind of the nape of your neck.
Look, if they can have muscles like that, they can flex them all day long, but these teams need to flex these muscles here in this second game, Monica, because Miramar is back on the cards, and it's a interesting playing path here. Very southern playing path for these teams. A
Wow.
lot of the positions up towards their north side are going to be a stretch away.
Remember yesterday we had Highland Wolf curse the teams and give another Los Leones city finish. So the teams are definitely, okay, Highland Wolf's casting again. Maybe everyone send Los Leones at the first circle. It's going to end up going there. We shall see.
But then that's when a moment where I say, "Psych, we're going to our pot zone,"
Psych.
and then they realize the mistake they've made.
Like, oh, we got debated, it's not gonna go in this general area, but I mean, very southern circle. Some of the teams that are going all the way up to the northern side, like Falcons, who really didn't do that well in the previous game, they're gonna have a long way to fly and soar to find their destination.
Do you know where I've never seen those? So I've never seen two places so far in terms of positions. I'm not sure if we'll get them in this first phase, but down towards Minas del Sur and Oasis are the two locations that I've never seen. We're not going to get them this game, but the other point that I really like about this zone is that San Martin is the dead center of it, and Picardo there too. So you actually see teams like GEEKAY now going to position over Picardo as well, which makes that kind of interesting change of their own rotation, but also the possibilities we said, those high hills of San Martin and that main road that goes backwards towards the west, there are those hills on the north side of that as well that again teams can utilize to really capitalize on other teams coming on the road and be able to punish them with all of that information in those high hills ground.
Yet as that first circle pops on, we do have Los Leones in it, Highland Wolf, so you're not quite out of the woods yet. The teams though here, they, especially as an IGL, you just really have to keep in mind, where do all these teams land? How do they rotate in the first circle based on where that first playing path was, where that circle did go? Because there's a lot of open ground in Miramar. Where can you actually move with your vehicles without being shot at many, many times and potentially losing a player? 4K, we saw an almost, Falcons and 4K landing pretty close to each other just on the north side of Mikado towards Graveyard. So just missing out on each other. So no immediate fights yet.
Gonna be, I think, a quiet game for now. I don't expect too much to happen here. Now, Falcons rotating up assumably towards this Graveyard side. It is already taken up by one squad for now. It is a change. Now, Falcons used to be one of those teams that focused primarily around the Picardo end, but instead now you actually have GEEKAY here who are taking that position up. And that may also be to decide that you have players like Ragnar, like Geif, who I know for sure Ragnar did play on YALLA previously. I can't confirm 100% Geif, but I do believe he also played there on YALLA. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but that kind of players where they've gotten used to that location and the previous team, they have that knowledge of that location already, and that's perhaps why you see GEEKAY make this change on one hand and try to also continue to go to the same location.
I think GEEKAY is one of those teams that really has their style, their rotations, their just kind of brand locked down, because GEEKAY, they always land in that central position on the map, whether it's Erangel in Razak, whether it's Miramar in Picardo, or Sanhok in Bootcamp, right? And from there, they really know how to rotate. And this is, I mean, they're the #1 team in the overalls right now. And I think they just really know how to play, and they figured it all out, unlike some teams that may at the bottom, like Herd 12, that are still trying to, find their identity, find their play style. So GEEKAY, I think, is one of those teams that you can just really always count on to have a very, very great and consistent performance.
And as well, when you look towards the rotations of his zone now, a lot of these teams already have begun to make that road trip all the way up to their own locations that they do enjoy more so than that south end. And I think that does do a lot of changes towards the rotations of teams already on that south side. Now, for teams like Herd 12, for example, also SKYROCKET's down here, triple on that south end, not going to have to worry, because as we say, for now, a lot of those teams have made those northerly rotations. But coming into a zone later on could cause some problems, because teams, although they may have had a later losing phase, will be better prepared to have a northern phase shift. And it's very much a change on, does this zone continue to shift north, Monica, and affect those teams who have made those early rotations for the better, or are we going to stick towards, as you say, that south side where Los Leones could be in play?
Triple Esports landing down into Puerto Parisio, they like to have this a little bit of a split, right? They know nobody goes in this general area, so they can more confidently spread on out, having two pushing down further onto the coastlines, while the other two are right within the dock cities of Puerto Parisio. Triple Esports, they finished out in 3rd position last game, finding those trenches of Chopsticks and Erangel very early, and then staying there undercover while everyone was erupting in firefights all the way around them. NASR, the only one. We saw a scrimmage between them in yesterday's Miramar as well, in those red rocks just north of Los Leones. This could be setting up for the sequel.
Still, all of these teams going to solidify their position for now. Gives us a bit of time, I think, to talk about those teams now. Twisted Minds, I think one of those squads who really have shown that Miramar, again, is their strong suit. Currently around really that Monte Nuevo, La Real side, so won't be in contention too much again of these other players, but it's intriguing that the usual rotation that Twisted Minds do tend to make here, coming up more so towards either that Los Leones side, or if it is a northern zone, up towards, again, that northern route, does kind of make it a bit tricky of their rotations. And that may also be why in this season they have struggled, because you see a lot of those teams focusing on the roadside towards Hacienda, as we potentially said, but then Los Leones also has the same problem, where teams, again, trying to centralize around the cities, block out these later rotating teams, and it does create conflict later on for those final teams rotating into the zone.
We like to see teams that set themselves up to not overcommitting to a certain spot. For example, overcommitting to a city, say it does land on Los Leones, right? Going to the center of the city and just, you know, to our deaths, we will hope and pray that the circle keeps coming over here. But if it shifts off to the city, I'm really out of luck, because there's so many other teams on the edges or on the outskirts of the city that are, you know, preventing me from escaping or leaving the general area. So teams like GEEKAY, I mean, we always highlight GEEKAY, but I think they're a prime example of knowing what to do, always being flexible, and always thinking a couple circles ahead and having options for themselves no matter where that next circle goes.
And I think it's important to note as well with GEEKAY is that though they are a new organization, they are 4 veteran players when it comes to the PMPL Arabia. These players have all played on other teams before in previous seasons, but it's, I think, the formula of all 4 of these players together, which has really struck to their success. And it seems already that so early into their career as an ensemble together, that they know how they want to play, and having that ability to create that synergy so early on certainly helps, no?
Absolutely. And Satan, you know, he used to be in Rad Esports. He is, I think, arguably one of the best in-game leaders in the entire region. A lot of people are, you know, commend him for his intelligence. I know he's such a big jokester. I know that's gotten him in a bit of trouble in the past as well, but I think having the smarts like that, and then having a fragger like Gaith that can really back up those rotation and those fights, is just turning this team into one of the biggest super teams of this region.
And I think people also forget that Ragnar, Katana, I mean, Katana is that support, but also Ragnar, again, another one of those core fraggers to the team. It just seems like a completely star-studded roster that has really worked out in their success. You can see it so far, number 1 on that leaderboard, but as the zone will decide where we're going to go, it does continue to shift down towards that south side in Los Leones. It's a chuckle from Monica, because Monica knows every time Highland Wolf casts, it seems to go down towards Los Leones.
Maybe we should just ping all the teams and be like, by the way, Highland Wolf is casting this one. Make your way to Los Leones, because it's encompassed once more again. Remember, yesterday's mirror is actually on the southern side of the city, and this time it's hogging that kind of north half.
Still, a lot of the position on that northern side still in play now. Graveyard, you've got the San Martin, Picado Hill still available. I suspect there's going to be a few of those teams utilizing those further parts of the zone. But as we said, yeah, Los Leones still is a city in play. And a few of those teams may decide to go in there currently. Those teams, I suspect, more from the south side, like Triple, who have made their position already actually on the outskirts of it, on that more eastern entrance. using those hillsides to great effect for now to block out squads like NASR, later teams rotating in, and it does actually create a lot of problems. As long as Triple can hold his position, as NASR do seem to be aggressing on top of it, then it actually forces a lot of the teams later to make a rotation to the western side, which is a lot more volatile and getting in onto the edge of Los Leones as a whole.
Grenades coming out from Clever, giving NASR a bit of bad deja vu. Remember, they got 1v2 pieced by some grenades yesterday by the only one this time. Triple Esports, though, finding these opportunistic angles and actually taking NASR down to only 2 left on their feet.
And look at Gringo all the way far down, cannot support the team. And it's a brilliant adaptation by Triple. Yesterday we saw Clever in the same position, was alone. And NASR, I think, is the same deal. But you can see the 3 members of the other Triple team come up behind, not spotted, and assassinate together the entirety of NASR, bar Gringo, who was away from the fight.
That was within... I think this was very NASR, just what is going on right now, because that all happened within the span of probably 2 seconds. And YALLA, they're also one of those top teams, I believe, in 4th position right now in the overall standings. They heard the fights, they smelled the blood in the water, and they want to come in third party and get a piece of the cake themselves.
Still, a lot of these final teams, as we said, rotating in. Maybe more successful in NASR potentially here. YALLA taking a slower approach, of course, as you said, had heard the shots. But again, more of those teams on the northern side, like 4K, coming around that La Bendita Hill. You don't need to come in on this western side, which is a crucial thing we have to remember here. Or on the east side, should I say, of Los Leones, the north is actually just as potent of an entrance in. And you can see teams that have that leeway coming through from Graveyard into La Bendita, and then using the information from these points to come in across those northern hillsides and be able to have a slower rotation in, utilize those crates to the north of Los Leones to make a more safer rotation in than potentially that of the more open west-eastern end.
Looks like Dab Center is a bit open right now. Just kind of that off-center positions are being taken up. We see NIGMA Galaxy coming in from El Pozo, taking up the city of Pecado right on the back of GEEKAY, who have left the city to come in. The circle is shifting this time, just still hugging that northwestern edge of Los Leones.
It's not happening.
This is a lot of open fields, though. He's like, come on, nah. He's like,
nah. It's not happening this time. Third phase, I mean, it goes away, but it goes into that more, I think, even diabolical open field that is that western side. And we said the western side is very tricky to navigate in because it is open, Monica. But what's even more open is that roadside along the entrance into Los Leones. And not only are we going to have teams like potentially Kurd keeping their eyes on that more southern hill, which should provide them those advantages here alongside SKYROCKET. But for those on the northern end of that zone, they're going to have to rotate very far in and commit very hard into those few compounds that are in around that very open field, because we are looking like we could have another open game just like the one previous.
The way this circle is turning out to be, like you said, a lot of those roads for those teams that haven't made it into the circle yet, and they're gonna have to dive bomb it into a position. It's either, do you pick the open roads where everyone is keeping their eyes onto you, right, and shooting at your cars potentially blowing up, or do you pick the treacherous terrain like we see here that GEEKAY and Road to Glory are setting themselves up to fight in? Slow car rotates up and above, potentially getting shot at as an easy target for everyone above. So it's just harsh rotating for any team in any situation in Miramar.
In a few of these further locations as well, kind of baiting these teams in potentially. Now, Los Leones is slightly better than I think Pecado is two of these locations, because you do have those 4 stacks, those 5 stacks. You can slowly, more insensibly approach into that zone, but it's still going to be difficult coming downhill and more into the open. Whereas Pecado, you see some of these teams up to the northern end, like FALCONS, currently like NIGMA, they're going to struggle a lot more, because coming out of Pecado this late into the game, teams are going to have a position over you. They're gonna have the high hills, and coming out of Pecado is notoriously difficult because it's a short open space. You need a vehicle to navigate away, because if a team does have that position on the hill, it's so easy to be able to pick off squads below them.
4K getting picked off now by Rad in this little tip that they found, but a grenade blows up in Golden's face as Deshaw. He's throwing another one, cooking it, throws it just a little bit off to the sidelines, but trying to go for a flush, trying to get yet another knock while the rest of his team is mobilizing. They're sending their way to the front lines of the spite.
Rad, they use that utilized knock into potentially another. They get Anaconda. It looked close before K. They couldn't find the shots. They messed up the beginning few, and that's going to cost him. Is now on a knock. Will have to run downhill as the only sole survivor. The zone will collapse on top of him, but maybe on a knock will be brave enough, as you can see, stepping back up this hill, possibly looking for a punish onto Rad.
4K, last one left alive. Last game it was Golden, but this time it's another one's turn. He's got two of Rad pushing up right next and close to him, hovering on the apex of this ridge. They're starting to fan out a little bit, having the different angles as they go for the reset on their fourth member from Rad, but Rad is getting debilitated in the back by the only one as they come in third party onto the fight.
And crucially here, 4K gets themselves in between the ridge, but now look at Kaito on the other end, spots them out though, 4K, and will find one, but it's Rad who finishes off with the last player, but they've lost numbers. They're down to one. They will get the revive surely here. The only one cannot punish behind the rock, but when you look at the zone here, more importantly, it's gone very far away from both of those teams on the eastern end, and they both equally now have a long journey in.
If not for the only one playing spoiler into that fight, I think Rad could have still had all four players at the live while collecting those eliminations. Curd 12, the ones that were doing okay the first half last match, but now needing to get those points back as they watch from Pride. Such a heavy frag team looking to third party onto this fight as well.
A lot of the teams though already have committed a position here inside of this phase 4 moniker, and for now teams have found a position which also doesn't create conflict in amongst the secondary team, minus of course the likes of Yalla, right, versus Curd 12, who are coming in from that southern roadside, which is going to be naturally more tricky because of the more open space the south side of the zone does involve. Now Curd 12, you can see trying to make those flanks. Yalla as well, very spread out here with the two players initially. Now bringing it back together, are able to focus up one of those enemy members of Curd 12 and will force them back for now. The only problem for Yalla is that they still can't move from their location. Major Pride still look over them, so for the meantime they are certainly hoping for a zone that's just back down into the south side, because it may relieve some pressure from the rest of these teams rotating back in on towards them, or even better, a zone that actually shifts them towards the northern end for these southern teams, because then Major Pride and these other teams move first, and that then creates space for Yellow and Curd 12 to also move.
It's so hard for these teams to actually reset in Miramar. You can see no grass, no foliage to camouflage into. What are you going to straddle a cactus and try to revive your teammates? So this is so hard. We see this full man team slowly, not slowly, actually very quickly losing their players, as now Triple Esports looking over the crest of the hill and trying to find the rotators on 5. The only one. All these teams caught into the blue zone, and it is doing so much damage.
And this is a problem, right? The zone does the work. Problems still tanking. It will eventually go down with time. There's no space to heal. SKYROCKET find the third one, and Ziyad's the only one, but they did do enough damage potentially here to Triple, who are pushing in, but SKYROCKET are also there as a third party. Rips here to play and turns push into pieces. Is Clever now is the only one here alive for Triple. Does have a position on the edge of the zone, but quickly that will be left alone as a rock, the only thing viable. Wanted now will fall, but can Clever turn this? There is a low member here. Rip won't have the time to use a first aid kit, will be popped down even lower, but so will Clever, buying the time for now SKYROCKET to push up, coming in together as a duo. They need to make this work through Easy, but as Easy will find the shots first and finishes off Triple for the fight, but Major Pride are all too here as the fourth party to punish now quickly. SKYROCKETs to the tomb as well.
We have seen this come out so much from Major Pride, where they just know their timing. They know where to position themselves. They hear the shots, and without hesitation, putting themselves right in the front line to kind of get those eliminations now. Nomi getting the numbers added to his tally, currently at 3 eliminations himself out of his team's total 7, as YALLA taken down back into the lobby. So Major Pride, they were tied for top frags in the last match, and they're showing up now this time around. Curd12 finding the likes of Twisted Minds on the opposite side of the circle.
In a big uplift for Major Pride, a second mega elimination game for them. Is Twisted Minds really struggling inside the smoke and the dirt here, as they will be picked apart not by Major Pride, but now by Curd12, also on the flanking end. Anas, the only one remaining, has a tree to themselves, will try to utilize a good nade potentially over the wall, but Curd12, they seem to have gone further back, and it will miss for now. Curd12 now also alerted to the position as they mobilize, but only into Major Pride's arms, as they will find themselves knocked, and Major Pride doing more work to the only one, as they will also find themselves eliminated away.
Curd12 trying to avoid a solo, but find themselves with RA, but Twisted Minds. Anas not letting the opportunity escape out of his fingers, as now he's going to be hitting the deck, laying prone onto the ground as Curd12 lands a shot onto him, but they have bigger fish to worry about, and that is going to be Major Pride up above, just laying down the pain on all of these teams below.
RTG trying to use that solo smoke, but GEEKAY have eyes all over him as well. And that northern end, you can see that height advantage through from GEEKAY is so powerful. Twisted Minds, Anis will also fall away. Bring is down to the final 7 as Geif continuously looking, finds out J9, looks for the shots, and J9 gets back under cover, but RTG, they're stuck inside the blue.
No one can really harass the positioning of GEEKAY, Major Pride, any of them, because they've got the high upper ground. This time Curd12, they're out of time because the blue zone is coming in now, and it's going to wipe them all out, as R8 is also under fire from NIGMA Galaxy on the other side. So we've slowly gone down to only top 4 teams, and these 4, they're almost all 4. Actually, they are. All 4 of them are full teams. We have a 4v4v4v4 to end this Miramar match.
And it is realistically, though, NIGMA who have such control over that zone. It's gone all the way over to them here on this phase 5 point. Phase 6 now coming over through from NIGMA is up to them. Can they use that compound? They are in the lower ground, though, crucially. So all of these other teams from outside the zone, they have the height advantage, and GEEKAY will be keen to focus on FALCONS, as they are the ones behind them, trying to assert themselves also inside the zone. They'll find one of GEEKAY for now. Geif looks very low indeed as a trade fires through. GEEKAY pinning is a team, however, a secondary knock, but it's a 2-for-2 trade as FALCONS pierce back themselves. A second knock for them. GEEKAY, now the rest of them stepping in. Satan is the only one looking for the punish. Knows he has to do it fast as before the revives come up, but it's just too little. In Major Pride, they've heard those shots, so they see the potential. But FALCONS, they've got the ridge to them. The nade goes wide, and FALCONS may just get the revives off.
Major Pride just playing this like a classic match. They hear shots and they want the elimination. They want to be part of any single fight in their general direction. You saw them in the middle of that fight between FALCONS and GEEKAY. They already mobilized. They came over the top, and now it's a horribly spoiled, rotten sandwich that is going to be FALCONS, because on one side it's going to be NIGMA Galaxy forcing the shots up their way, and Major Pride on the upper hand. So FALCONS a little bit too late, as they are now taking out 3rd position. Now the 2 major players, the major titans of the lobby, is going to be NIGMA Galaxy down below as Major Pride trying to find their way into this circle.
And it should be NIGMA's game, realistically. Now, Major, they've got themselves a position in the zone, but it's completely open, Monica. There's no way that Major Pride can really utilize a compound or so here. There is that one onto the edge, but as quickly as it is there, it disappears. Now, trying to make the flanks, trying to spread out here as a 2-on-2 could be the best option, or alternatively trying to use that T formation that we've seen teams use, where you try to spread the 3 members apart at the back and the 1 on the front to try to draw the attention for those flanking members to come on the sides for your team. NIGMA, however, just have to stay together. They don't have to move currently, and wherever this zone goes will determine who now needs to move first. It does go towards Major Pride, but they have to still survive. NIGMA still have the time on their hands for another 40 seconds.
Major Pride doesn't really realistically have any sort of hard cover at this time. Maybe that airdrop that came in at the very last second, they could spread out a little bit more on that northern side. But like you said, NIGMA Galaxy, Lord, he's at that high upper vantage point. All the other three of them down below are just waiting for Major Pride to expose themselves once the smokes do dissipate, because they're running out of resources. They've only got a couple of vehicles like buggies to provide them a little bit of cover. So NIGMA Galaxy, they have Pride right where they want them, and NIGMA Galaxy has more time on their hands as they actually send Raouf up close and personal to Pride to lobby some of those utilities like grenades into their faces.
And it's a smart decision. It's a 1v1 versus Yen. Of course, the other one's trying to find the bullets in, but Raouf cannot get over that ridge line. The bullet's just a little bit too short as Major keep himself up. Yen was fired down both in the back line of NIGMA, and that's a crucial entranceway that they needed. They needed that 1-for-1, and now this will open the door for NIGMA to get inside the zone.
That's like sending the knight right into the barricade of pawns in this chess game that is this last Miramar match. Pride frozen laying and hitting the deck. Now it's going to be only one up at the top and trying to prevent NIGMA Galaxy from getting more of these eliminations. But NIGMA Galaxy, they're able to show why they're such a high contending team in this region and getting the second chicken dinner of the day.
Okay, I mean, fair enough. NIGMA, they get the chicken dinner, it's deserved. But they also did get that zone come phase 6. And I've got to argue that Major Pride did a lot of the heavy lifting versus capitalizing there on Falcons and GEEKAY's fight, then trying to get a position in. It was, I think, if Raouf had gone down and had Yen actually got that knock onto NIGMA, maybe there's a world where actually Major Pride can start to begin to play the rest of NIGMA who weren't inside of that zone. Maybe if Raouf hadn't had that position ahead for them, it could have gone either way. But as we check out those match rankings, NIGMA still are victor of that game, regardless, with those 15 placement points, $1,000 in hand, and also the 11 elimination points on twos.
I think we're going to see a chicken dinner come out from Major Pride at some point today. This is their second consecutive match that they've gotten in a second place position with a massive number of eliminations. So they're definitely itching for that. We're so close, but just couldn't close it out. So I think Major Pride is definitely running hot and really confident, but they just finally want to jump over that hurdle of finally getting a chicken dinner.
2 second places, so does bring them very much higher in the standings, and keeping track with NIGMA is very crucial, because you have to keep in mind that GEEKAY, as much as they had a good game, did lose out on a few of those points, and also Twisted Minds didn't have a position here in the first page of the leaderboard. So overall, it's a big win in trying to close that gap at the top of the leaderboard, and also more importantly, of course, securing that spot in terms of getting enough points in this second Super Weekend to not have to worry as much about the third.
Definitely, you want to be in that top contending position. So if you do go out a little bit early, like NIGMA Galaxy did in the last game, it's okay. You can always come back versus a team that's, hey, we gotta perform every single one of these matches to try to get up in that qualifying spot for the finals.
Right.
So let's take a look at the second half of the match rankings to see where the bottom half of this lobby did fall.
And unfortunately, no points gained by either 4K or NASR, and 4K surely going to slip a little bit further on those leaderboards with that loss. But bigger, I think, losses for the likes of POWR Esport, who, again, only a 1-point game for them here. They are beginning to fall behind, and realistically, you're in a world where they need these points, Monica. They need to continue to get that consistent result that they had actually in the league stage, because it just seems like this Super Weekend, they can't replicate what happened at the beginning of the week.
Another team that is falling a little bit shy is going to be Twisted Minds. Remember the last game, they just all fell down, and they had one solo left alive that was found right on next to GEEKAY. They didn't really have that many points in the last game, and once again, only 1 point found this match. So we're seeing quite a turn of the events at the very, very top of the standings, as some of our stronger teams like Major Pride, like NIGMA Galaxy, are finally waking up and performing much better.
Look, they've got Erangel again, though, Monica, up against them. But before we head there to the Erangel flight path, we're going to take a quick break and check us out with the best offer moments from Miramar. Welcome back, everyone, here to what will be our third game coming up at the PMPL Arabia full split for the second Super Weekend. Myself, Howard Wolf, and Monica here, but it's not just us, it's also the Oppo Reno 7 Profile G down below on the middle of your screen with the upgrade performance and upgraded funds. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Oppo Reno Pro 5G, the designated smartphones for PUBG Mobile Middle East, Africa, and Middle East Esports 2022. But you also need something to drink with that phone, Monica. What better than Monster Energy, the designated energy drinks partner for the PMPL Arabia? Monica, you know, though, it's Erangel coming up, and we're back to the basics of the most important map you could argue of all.
Definitely back to the basics. Some of these teams definitely need to go back to studying how to play PUBG Mobile, because some of them are not performing well at all this weekend so far. But I mean, that'd be the most optimal way to play, right? Oppo in one hand and then Monster in the other, and you're just playing one-handed as well. So I mean, this Erangel, we're going back, and this is the map that everyone knows really, really well. And remember, it was GEEKAY that stole the chicken dinner in the first match today.
Look, you may have one hand, Monica, okay, but you also have 2 feet. I mean, if you never thought of it, like, there's still another 10 digits to play with.
Yeah, I wanna actually, I did know one player in, I wanna say it was the Latin America region, who actually did have one hand and was playing in PMPL with one hand. So it was quite the story, and it was quite some impressive stuff coming from him.
Look, I think also impressive stuff needs to be done by, as you say, a few of these teams too. I think this Super Weekend has felt a little bit of a development of who may be at the top of our standings now. I think GEEKAY, Major Pride also stepping up majorly in this game. Also NIGMA getting that chicken dinner, very important for them. But got to see consistency still as we are heading in onto our Erangel match. And that word, you cannot, I think, join it together with, as we said, a few of those bottom teams. Now, we are again going to highlight the likes of course, the only one, of course, like POWR. And again, our 3 new teams coming into the second Super Weekend, SKYROCKET, CONQUEROR, and also FALCONS. I think majorly, though, it's more towards the only one in POWR, and the rest of these teams kind of on that second page of the leaderboard who have played 15 more games, keep in mind, than those other 3 new dogs to this Super Weekend, and are still not that far ahead of them.
Yeah, they're still definitely playing catch up with, what is it, 15 matches, my apologies,
Right.
in between them that they still need to, that just means they need to get so many more points on average per match to try to catch up to all the other teams at the beginning. We've seen GEEKAY, they've done wonderfully for themselves, being at first place even before today even started and getting the first chicken dinner of the day. And then NIGMA Galaxy, another team that we know can perform well. We just haven't seen them perform at all, really, in terms of those big, massive wins with high eliminations until the last match that we just saw in Miramar where they won.
And again, a very central playing path, very much kind of for these teams, going to be coupled by a very central zone here as well, Monica. So nothing really out of the ordinary, but it does leave a lot of question marks, however, on kind of where this zone is going. And I think we're probably going to expect, as a result of this, teams kind of staying towards their own locations, trying to stay into potentially these more edge points of the zone, and phase 2 coming into that at the end of phase 1, trying to have a more central spot inside of this Erangel.
This is the second time we've had a very central circle, right, in Erangel. The last one it just did end a little bit west of Pachinki. So I want to see these teams that do go in the center, like NIGMA Galaxy, GEEKAY, NASR, to perform really, really well here. We almost saw a little shot out of the car, though, as Triple Esports begging to be not shot at to continue bringing all 4 to the rest of the match.
Triple as well, stepping up here when it comes to, I think, some of the games played today. Now, they had a good game, of course, in that first Erangel game. Got to see if they can match that once more. Whereas I think it's been a lot more opposite from some of these other teams, as we said, climbing now. We're still waiting on FALCONS, on CONQUEROR, on Sky, all to have their standout performances again today. I think that CONQUEROR kind of showing a little bit more so than I would argue FALCONS or Sky, minus, of course, FALCONS' first decent game that they had here in Erangel, where you can see a lot more risk involved by CONQUEROR, and that's why they've been having poorer performances. capabilities than the rest of the other two, but they are certainly trying to go for the fight. And I would rather them be a bit more over-aggressive here now, trying to find their own footing, than be under-aggressive than the likes of maybe Sky today, who haven't been as dominant as these other two.
Some teams, they just have their play style where they're most comfortable in. And we've seen that come out from Major Pride, from GEEKAY, where it's, hey, if there's a fight, we're going to go for it. Play a little loose, play a little bit more relaxed. These are two teams that are up on the top standings. So, you know, if they can find their groove, they can really just continue to play so confidently and so consistently versus the teams that are kind of towards the bottom. For example, the only one, like Triple Esports, are, hey, we're at the bottom. We need to get some points, so they're playing kind of more ultra conservative, the opposite of what you said, playing a little bit more aggressive and just you know, just not playing how they know how to play, and their performance is falling because of it.
And I think in terms of the consistency of getting that back into these teams, also the psychological aspect plays a lot. And as you say, these teams who haven't been performing today so well, maybe that does have a mental effect on top of these squads, of course, not feeling as great maybe because they haven't had these good results. And for opposite teams like NIGMA, who have done well today, like Major Pride, like GEEKAY, only going to continue to have that confidence instilled in them that they have the capabilities to make these big results, which can have a knock-on effect, as we've seen in previous tournaments, not just this one, Monica, where having those consistent results really can cause a team to mentally stay strong and begin to run away with those results overall.
Once you get that momentum rolling, like you said, it's easy to keep it rolling, right? And we see these teams, anybody could keep performing well while their team is playing at their top peak, right? If you're, hey, we just came off the back of a win, all spirits are high, everyone's kind of joking, very relaxed play style, but it shows those kind of more veteran teams, the ones that are more mentally strong, to not just self-implode and just, you know, hey, we just lost 3 in a row, we need to come back, but you know, everyone's not mentally there. You know, everyone's quiet, mad at each other, mad at themselves, and there's no coming back from that.
And I think, again, when you talk about the veteranship as well, not just, I think, the mental state of having those wins, it falls onto, I think, more the teams, how much the players have played together with the past, but how much the players have played together in tournaments before. And I think that's something that certainly when you see, well, new organizations like GEEKAY, who have had their downsides, of Major Pride, who have had their downsides too, still form back together with that veteran experience and say, well, we have the ability to do so. We've done so in previous rosters. We know that we can be just as good now if we put our minds to it. And it's all about making sure that you are ready and that you are prepared, Monica, of course.
One team that hasn't been as prepared for this Super Weekend is going to be 4K. Remember, the first week of league play, they ended up actually qualifying into the first Super Weekend in 16th place. Just by the skin of their teeth, they made it into Super Weekend. And after that first day, they had a chicken dinner. They had all these massive games as well. I think they were about first place. And at the first day of Super Weekend kind of fell from there. But so far, 4K once again just kind of barely made it into Super Weekend. Is just kind of right at the bottom of the overall standings now in Super Weekend. So they just, I don't know, it's a little bit extra, maybe a little extra spice needs to be added to their mix to be able to proof all up and be able to perform better in the Super Weekend.
Triple still also continuing to make their rotations in onto this zone. Are down again towards that south side. I'm making the same rotation here up towards that Potato Hill or so, coming down from that more westerly bridge coast. And again, SKYROCKET, again, that other south team gonna use now that space to rotate out of that western bridge, I assume, in a couple moments or so, and get back onto this mainland Erangel like the rest of these teams. Now the zone still continuing to close here into phase number 2, but the teams also, as a result, as we said and expected, Monica, beginning to centralize as well, and Potato Hill certainly looking like the initial part of where these teams are congesting.
Potato Hill is such a great spot, especially, I mean, we always see NIGMA Galaxy, you know, they're right there in Pachinki. They got first kind of rotations right into that general area, but it goes down to the school area. They're coming downhill from there, right? And they have the van. There's a lot of little, what do you call them, kind of outcropping ridges that they can just kind of bunny hop down the hill and still be able to have that little outcropping as protection from those below them, and still be able to rotate on down, like we see NASR is at here. the only one a little bit above them. And you know, just no matter where it goes, Potato Hill really opens the rotations to getting into that next circle.
Right, and indeed is that circle does begin to close now in onto phase 2. The majority of these teams as well have also rotated in. It's been a very quiet game, of course, and I think we started to see that naturally happen as well throughout tournaments. Is again, this one seems to be the case where you come in later into these matches in second week and third week, Monica, and suddenly the teams, as they begin to know the rotations, start to avoid squads. Now, Satan obviously very sneaky right now. Is that POWR perhaps going to find a position onto Barnkid? But no eliminations so far. Barnkid steps up though. Might be the first. There it comes. Just as I said we were having a peaceful game, Barnkid will fall. Satan grabbing a lone person here of POWR, and it really doesn't help POWR in a position like this where they have been struggling for 2 games now. They're struggling again to get those points, Monica, and losing a player like that early on just really, really hurts him.
I mean, it's just that player going back and kind of second guessing himself. Oh, I didn't clear out the building, right? I didn't clear out the entire compound. Now GEEKAY, the town was just coming in ninja style. You saw him on his belly just come in ever closer, and POWR was just none the wiser to what was about to happen, and the rest of his team kind of yelling at him, what happened? You know, you put us now at only 75% capacity, and it's just clawing themselves a deeper hole to try to win this game with only 3.
Now, they have all come back together, and that in response, I assumed the solo of it fell apart, assuming that also potentially there could have been more GEEKAY members. So it was a nice quick rotation back as a 3-man unit, but they are still going to have a lot of pressure when coming across this zone. It is again begun to centralize, but the main points really that you can contest for are on that eastern side. It does help POWR slightly, considering that they won't have to worry as much, that teams won't want to focus on the more open space of Gatka fields for the meantime. The only other concern that they will have to focus on, however, is those later rotating teams, and that, of course, being the beginnings of major pride of R8, who may spot them out here.
Lots of teams in this general hilly side. Not a whole lot of compounds in this general area, but the in terms of up the hill on Potato Hill, Rad coming in from that Milta Power-ish area right through the Snake compound. They're still, you know, their eyesights aren't technically right on here. They continue to rotate on past Curd 12, having that higher upper ground and just really collecting the information, right? They've been here longer than a lot of the other teams in the general area, like Rad, so they have a little more inklings of where it's open, where there might be a team, and then may be able to come in for a third party if they go for it, because they have more information. They know one side is clear of the fight, and then, you know, rotating in on that to join in.
You know, I'm feeling like we need to be educated here, Monica, because I haven't seen a school finish for so long. I mean, we're talking like PMGC 2021. I mean, that's when we're talking about the last time I saw at least a school finish. Where are you kind of thinking right now that you would like this zone to go? Because I know out of the 2 of us, now I thought I was evil, and then I was apparently surprised, I think, to see that you are on the same page as me, Monica, but potentially even more evil.
I don't know, there's still a sliver of that Slavnaka island in the circle.
Oh, I see.
One of these days we'll get one of them. But no. In all seriousness though, I mean, we had a Gatka kind of field over there. We had you know setting up for a school one as well. But before we can get into that, we have Rad coming in from Milta Power, I think trying to harass Falcon out of their spots, maybe mobilizing now, or maybe not. Maybe Rad is just, hey, we don't want to make the same mistakes we did earlier today, and we're just gonna back off just a little bit.
Still, Falcons, they found Kaito, so that will, I think, of course, deter the rest of Rad from coming in. Never Alone there on the backside, I believe, was the one that really hurt here Rad from coming in onto that fight potentially as a whole. That back player, again, really hurting the team who was looking to regress on in, and Rad as a result having to push back, but now reduced to 3 players. And even worse so right now is the zone has gone into their hands, and all of those teams looking now around squads like Rad, who still are yet to come further forward, such as Curd 12, such as RTG, and suddenly they aren't in a position where they have set up for themselves well, because they've just moved away from Falcons. players, and even more players are entering in, and you can see that hurts them so much as Delhat will lose their life too.
We also see NIGMA Galaxy being heard in the background as in their backyard in the field just to the north side of Pachinki now being shot at from Twisted Minds. Looks like only one is just kind of this side of Pachinki, Twisted Minds all coming into the barn area. But I mean, this is now getting more congested here as Ragnarok, he's also trying to pepper away at SKYROCKETs just above them and kind of get them out of their area, right? They won't want this hurdle to have to worry about when the circle does inevitably shift and they have to rotate through them.
And the SKYROCKET, another one of those final teams to rotate in onto that zone, haven't been too aggressive for now, have found that one elimination, but as these teams have been drawn in closer, more and more fighting has begun to take shape. Falcons and Road to Glory all but together now, sharing their own location. The nades dodged out by Falcons, barely by time, never alone. You can see also in the replay here, Cur12, who did just lose all of their players. I mean, was that one vehicle? Was that one vehicle, Monica? Did I just watch that correctly? Did I just see a one vehicle play in PMPL? I mean, we talk about the mistakes of basics and learning, but I think we didn't take it that far, Monica.
Man, what is even beyond the basics? It's just that someone needs to go and really just relearn this. I mean, these teams, like you said, is this in PMPL that we're seeing this? Because this is kind of season 1 kind of strategy. You need to get those vehicles first and then drive to your looting spot so you can bring more than just one vehicle into these rotations. But Falcons, I mean, they have their neighbors Road to Glory right on next to them taking this fight in this compound. Actually, not all of Falcons is in this vicinity, Highland Wolf, and they're going to be punished for this as they're having one casualty.
An RTG all now centered up inside of Falcon's home. They found the entrance in, and Yusuf has been also wiped off. Powerful as well, knocked by the nade. Damar is already out of there, and it's never alone. Being left all alone to face off with a full fury of RTG.
Yeah, he needs to change his name from Never Alone to Always Alone, as Road to Glory is going to be pushing them out of the compounds. Now they're going to be just out on the wall side. They have a little overwatch on the back end side to kind of help them a little bit, having the angle, but it might be a little bit too late because that car is going to prevent him from helping him at all.
And RTG just seem in total control here, but Never Alone did at least keep themselves alive, but Powerful straight back down again is now left for the pickings of RTG and Road to Glory. A glorious 3 eliminations held up for them, and Falcons, they keep at least Damar alive. I think it was, of course, the smartest thing to do, but it certainly didn't look clean. It was the reactive plays of trying to get away from RTG's fights.
That was such a fatal error going on there. Falcons, one of the teams that won the last match in Erangel yesterday, and one of the teams that didn't qualify for last week's Super Weekend, now having a very rough start for this match. NIGMA Galaxy, another team that they should be doing so well, but we're at the 16-minute mark, and they're barely rotating in the circle after staying in Pachinki. So these rotations are just coming out way too late for a team landing in that central position.
And a lot of those later rotating teams just seem to be really willing to come on into that central zone, which has ended up around school, Monica. And I'm feeling all too happy about myself that we get to see another school finish potentially here on these teams. And realistically, it seems to be those who in control of the apartments, in control of the school, will have that success for themselves, as NASR crushing down the ends of SKYROCKET. But they too will be in trouble as GEEKAY really in control of this location. Coming further in is going to be a dire problem to solve.
Is it September already? Because the circle's taking us back to school, and for some of these teams making a last-ditch rotation now, they're going to have to go back to daycare because they need some care after getting wiped out of this lobby. GEEKAY down below now taking up the school buildings after coming into the Razak, or landing in the Razak area. Everyone is sending these apartments, and we've seen these I mean, we haven't seen it in a while, but we've seen these type of finishes before, and it's just absolute mayhem and chaos.
NIGMA looking for the nades. We know someone's there. We'll miss for now, and YALLA looking for her own, chucking utility each and every way, but Lord has been found, unfortunately. Molly will only do so much, and there's nothing much more they can do at all as NIGMA will fall away. 5 now eliminations for YALLA inside the apartments, but they have to maintain control. It's triple. Twisted Minds have continued to find their position here. 4K inside the zone as well, but shouldn't really be able to move too much further considering that Triple and also YALLA have control of those eastern side of the apartments buildings, so it will make it very tricky to continue to move across. For now, GEEKAY still continuing to be the strongest team overall when it comes to that school position in hand.
Seems like NIGMA Galaxy Erangel is just not their cup of tea, which is very unfortunate because Erangel takes up so many of the maps in the Super Weekends, 3 a day out of the 5. Triple Esports staying on the eastern side of the apartments, and you're seeing these teams start to commit to apartments, commit to school like GEEKAY, and if it continues to shift on the there, it's really that last 7th circle shit. Will it go to school? Will it go to apartments? Oh my god, it has both of them in there. But really, this next circle phase is really going to be the determining factor of who wins this match and who has to cross that very treacherous open road.
And YALLA making that move still closer in onto the apartments. GEEKAY have complete control of school. I didn't plan this, okay? I didn't look ahead, Monica. Like, I wanted to say school because I thought it would be interesting. I didn't think it would actually happen. And these teams will be hating themselves for having to face this. So, but RTG will do work with it anyways. It's Triple. It looked like they had the control, but they split too far. Clever, though. Finds 2. Maybe they'll keep it alive. There comes a 3rd, finally to close them out. But Unknown is in tatters, and RTG will fall.
What just happened? The grenades taking out both of these teams, just completely suicide. Both of them having to go back and read the syllabus to figure out what just happened in that match. The only one, they come in from just the edges, now hugging the southern side with NASR just on the outsides. They're throwing the utility. They're trying to prevent them any more space in this 6th phase.
Still, quietens down a bit. The only one. NASR trying to lobby those nades right in between each side. But problems alongside the rest of the team can't really move anywhere from this edge of zone. Of course, as we said, you can't really move into the apartments for now. It is continued to be locked down. NASR will try to make that big brave rotation indeed. They're going to send only half of those teams knowing that it is a mega risk. But as you can see, so is so many of these other squads. R8 have been already caught out, but maybe will help NASR here get in. But POWR are in the gym and they're lobbying through the nades like basketballs into the hoops of NASR.
You need to have a couple of low tosses here to find the NASR solo hiding on the other side of the wall, but R8 is not having a great time on this side next to the huge fragging team of Major Pride. They're cut down to only 2 players now and committing themselves into this little shack.
R8 were also ruined on this rotation. Have now got themselves a northern position onside the wall. NASR, all 4 of them making it in as well. Crucial, but they still have more work to be done. Major Pride down to 1 player as well, as they 2 on that northern end of the school side will be punished for being further away. And again, will not be able to move further, but that was a huge nade. 2 now down for R8 by GEEKAY. It will hold the fortress, but it is the educational side.
Circle shifts this time on to the school area, away from the apartments. All the teams like Twisted Minds who need to cross the road, they're gonna have to put their timing right, but this is looking like quite the impossible journey for them. Everyone on the outskirts of these walls, though, they're going to engage into fight very shortly. Pride still finding some of the members of R8 out into the open. No cover at all for them, as there just no mercy at all from the likes of Major Pride.
All of these teams from the apartments, it's a huge rotation that we have to make, and I don't think any of them will be making it first. Worried right now because, of course, realistically, they have the longest distance to travel. The only one as well going to have another difficult rotation as they still have not moved from that northern end. somebody else has also been spotted out, and it's going to add pain into the misery that is already being inflicted by the only ones.
Twisted Minds. I'm not sure how they're going to get across the road here. It's all open. Their vehicles must be debilitated by now as YALLA as well. We can see some smoking vehicles on their side, opting to take on the northern side, but Safe is literally right behind one of the players of the only one. Tommy gun does come out in hand, trying to find the knock, but Safe able to just slip away at the last second.
And the only one almost catching out YALLA's scythe, but that was very close indeed. But because they don't get that now, they are in a position we have to move over back, and Ali, who gets a punish through onto them. Does find scythe indeed, but it's maybe too late now, as all of them caught down in the dirt of that ground. It's so open, there's nowhere to go. Life as well, trying to have the fight of their life right now, but Life going down all but to 0% HP. It's a molly, won't burn him away, but there's no rescuing this player.
He's got his fire protection robe on, but he's going to need a revive soon. It seems one sent out towards the school, the other three sent into the apartment, so a little bit uncoordinated in this push into this circle. YALLA on the bottom hill side, only one member of Twisted Minds above him. I don't know, this is just a complete cluster of teams on that eastern side, and we have so many players knocked here as Dammy from above waiting for this last player 4K to run out in the open.
None of the teams from the apartments have continued to move. It's all about the healing, but look at the healing left. They got nothing really. 4K Odenok trying to make the move. They know they're there. And surprise, Dami shoots him down, but where could Dami go? Dami tried to climb through the tree, but falls down, couldn't catch the leaves that time. And now, so will Major Pride also struggle coming onto the zone, as the zone has shifted once more, confirming, centralizing around the school end. POWR now on the edge in the gymnasium. There come the end of POWR's spree as GEEKAY just look completely uncontested today in terms of that top spot. They cannot be thrown off the throne. And what can these teams do? Monica, they have complete control of this zone in their hands once more.
Once again, GEEKAY being the kings of Erangel. We have some other full teams still in the lobby, though. The only one still up with 3. They have a little bit of a downhill slope and no vantage points from the school building gate. They'll just finding the toes of Conte from POWR, as NASR all looking to mobilize as well to get into the school area. They want to dip their toes into this fight as they try to push onto the second floor with POWR.
With GEEKAY, they are looking to continue to hold this. NASR, though, crucially, they have had all 4 players here this entire game so far. And NASR has slowly worked their way in. They could try to punish. They have the man advantage over everyone else. Triple as well, falling away. Buys more space for them. But is POWR still in the gymnasium as well? But is this issue? It's why NASR have had to be so slow coming in.
Only one trying to find the angles here. NASR parkouring up into the outskirts of pool. He comes in real up and close to POWR as the only one is eliminated out. GEEKAY is just waiting for this fight to occur and then coming in for the quick third party. Into the stairway we go as they're trying to find the lone member of POWR.
And they get Kanzi away, blow him against a wall, and NASR will blow up their position into success at the second position overall this game. NASR, we have the man advantage, but those shots will have indefinitely been heard by GEEKAY. And they have still maintaining control. It's going to have to be up to phase 8 here, Monica, on which side it goes. Guy as well, a sneaky position indeed. Will step further back away as NASR very bunched up.
Oh, very bunched up indeed. And GEEKAY, if they win, this is going to be the second chicken dinner of the day. NASR, if they win, they will finally join the rankings of all the top teams of having a chicken dinner. Because currently, they're in that top 8 half of Super Weekend overalls, and they don't have a single chicken dinner yet. So pressure on both of these teams to get it. Currently, NASR, they have the one-man advantage over GEEKAY.
They have the zone.
But, I mean, they have the zone too, but GEEKAY, I mean, they are on a roll, and I don't know if there's anything that can stop GEEKAY at this point.
Oh, but that might is here. NASR as well, gonna lose one, but they cannot even find Geif. They do find Satan as well, but it's a double. It's beautiful by Ragnar to maybe close out the standings, and Batika is all left alone. And Ragnar's ready for them. Steps out, tries to find the shots, but it goes amiss. Ragnar's already on the other side and will find the shots indeed. A triple for the veteran and closes out their second chicken dinner, as you say.
NASR is just, I know they wanted to get into the main school building, but they were stuck in the pool side. They sent 2 out wide into the walls. They're trying to come around the corner, but it really just put themselves in a spot that GEEKAY could just really take the advantage of and just come around that wall, and then it was just straight sight lines to get 2 different knocks on those players. So I think it's just not really much that NASR could have done. Maybe come in through that little area between the school, or between the pool and school. Maybe only come in that way, because they definitely picked the harder way.
Yeah, I think that GEEKAY just absolutely gifted that zone no moniker. Went to that school side every single zone shift, and an excellent finish to punish out NASR for those $1,000. See, 28 points in total, but POWR. Also an interesting game by them, Monica, and the only one to both scoring those double digits, where we said both of them coming into this match did need those points.
GEEKAY just matching their performance from the first match. Remember, they got a chicken dinner, but they also got 13 eliminations that match as well. So 2 28-point games for today, and we're only on the 3rd one. But NASR, very valiant effort from them, just shy of actually closing out the game. The only one, remember, they're the ones that were just barely at the very, very bottom. So 10 points is it's decent for them, especially because the teams below them like Falcon, Cur12, and SKYROCKET didn't have that great of a match as well.
And indeed, it was very, of course, sponged up the points by GEEKAY and NASR, these teams at the top. And again, as YALLA even taking those 7 eliminations in total really does help them in those overall points to pick them up. As we check out that second page, and as we said, very sponged those overall results. And as expected, a lot of those teams not picking up many points at all. But another 0-pointer, the second of the day by NIGMA. So 1 chicken dinner, yes, but a very opposite result on the other 2 so far.
I mean, I talked about teams yo-yoing on the standards, and I think NIGMA Galaxy has really encompassed this. So basically, they had the 1 big chicken dinner, but now it's been diluted by 2 0-point matches. So they had risen up in the overall standings after their chicken dinner, but I mean, they can't keep just, hey, we either go big or we literally go home first back to the lobby in 16th position.
I think that NIGMA, the only thankful thing that they got going for themselves is that they are very high in the standings already, so they don't have to worry as much about this affecting them, and they still, with a big game, divide that about into 2 decent games overall, so they're not losing out per se when it comes to these 3 games, but they do need now the pressure to have that success in that 4th match of Sanhok, which I think, to be fair, all of these teams is going to create a lot of potential changes in these standings that we've seen already, especially considering that so far RTG are completely undefeated in this match for this week.
I say that everyone keep your eyes on Road to Glory, because they've won probably 3 out of the 4 last Sanhoks that we played, including yesterday and the day before. But before we can dabble in that and see where Road to Glory will fall in Sanhok, let's take a look at the Oppo highlights and come right back.
Welcome back, everyone, here for Sanhok time at the PMPL Arabia Full Split for the second Super Weekend. Myself, Hannah Wolf, and Monica alongside you. But not just ourselves alone. We're going to scan with upgraded fun and upgraded experience. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G, the designated smartphone for PUBG Mobile Middle East and Africa Esports 2022. But if you want in-game, not just, of course, the phone, you can earn those rewards too with the brilliant Grizzly Bear card collection, Monica. Up until the 7th of July, or 6th of July, should I say, you can join the card collection, draw, and win outfits. There's a chance to get all the pieces of an item in one go, but it's in that jungle style of the imagery. We are going into the jungle, Monica.
We are into Sanhok. And by the way, Highland Wolf, this is the halfway point of not only this Super Weekend, but all of the Super Weekends. So we are, these, people are really locking themselves in. GEEKAY locking themselves in first place right now with a 67-point difference between themselves and Major Pride. That is $5,000, by the way, they've gotten in just chicken dinners.
Mega results, but as you can see, all of the rest of those teams still stuck close together. But as we check out that second page of the leaderboard as well, you can see that there's still more work to be done by a few of these other teams. It's the only one surfacing now above 90th minute with that result in leaving the benchmark for 100 points for, of course, our other three new dogs into the overall rankings, where we need to see, of course, Falcons, Curd, also SKYROCKET be able to surface and find those results. As we're already going to hit it up, though, Monica, straight in onto Sanhok very shortly, where, as we say, these teams very experienced, we could say, in terms of the jungle so far in this week. And RTG still unbeaten. I have a feeling, though, GEEKAY are on a roll today and may be able to contest that streak.
Remember, GEEKAY and YALLA are always dropping in boot camp one after another and taking that team fight. And if memory serves me right, GEEKAY has been taken out more times than they've given it back to YALLA. So GEEKAY, this is definitely not their strongest map because they can't get past boot camp with YALLA taking them out every single time. We are looking at a very far northwestern plane path. It does come down on the southern time this time, and every time Road to Glory does end up winning Sanhok, it's always kind of centered right in that center quarry or right outside of Paradise area. They've kind of been given a lot of the great circles in Sanhok. And so, I mean, like you said, they're on a roll with Sanhok, but can anyone dethrone Road to Glory?
RTG are just looking still very strong, as we say. It's been a different type of zone, though. So it has gone away from RTG for the most part and down towards that southwest island. And we've not seen really too much of the southwest being in play for now. It has mainly been, of course, towards the teams rotating away from these side islands. And it's actually a surprise that now only in the tournament we are beginning to see teams have to face a zone like this. Is still, some things don't change, though. And YALLA and GEEKAY still in the fight here versus Bootcamp. It went on also to about that kind of 9.5 minute mark. We're wondering, is it going to be that long, Monica?
Some of these teams, like we saw Major Pride and we saw Falcons, and some they just really like to just hold each other's hands outside of the circle and just losing all the time in the world to rotate in. Here we do have YALLA, though. They are currently the standing kings of boot camp. As we do see, actually, Safe, he does get knocked first, so GEEKAY turning this in their favor, at least for now.
Still also YALLA here, again, continuing to lose out on his players. Has been a faster turn by GEEKAY for the meantime. Now, GEEKAY again winning out. This might be the change, because of course they won yesterday as well, keep in mind, in terms of that result. YALLA struggling, I think, so far, as GEEKAY seem to be forming a strategy, you could argue, that is working against YALLA's hands. Now, it seems to be about slowly pressing around that lobster building, making those slow approaches, but not slow at all. It's Major Pride here versus Uaz. They're both caught in fire and rotation, and Uaz, unfortunately, will fall down for it. But the rest of Triple, they're on the hunt, and Nomi barely gets out alive.
I like the burst M16 in close range right in your face to put you down onto your knees. Triple Esports now down to only three times on the QBZ, trying to find these members of Major Pride. So we did have Major Pride. Remember, they were stuck with Falcons in that Kampong area. Looks like this time Major Pride really on a roll. They're saying we don't want to wait that far and we don't want to just sit in the blue zone that much. So I think they just decided to go somewhere else. Really intelligent to give that spot up and just landed on kind of the outskirts of the core area.
And this is, again, as we say, that GEEKAY square of all four of them just kind of burning their way through slowly into YALLA's compound. And we'll send out the flashbang for now. Will inhibit GEEKAY's ability for the meantime. But it's more of a desperation flashbang by Boomper because the rest of the players, they're very much relying on Boomper to be able to find an initial knock to draw out the rest of these GEEKAY players themselves, because otherwise you are looking at a world right now where YALLA lose Boomper and the rest of a split and GEEKAY continue that control.
I like now that GEEKAY has eliminated one member of YALLA, knows it can play a little bit more confidently here because the numbers are definitely in their favor. But they need to keep all four up. They're sending Ragnar down on the kind of left-hand side, having that angle because they know that maybe one has escaped into their warehouses. YALLA doing well to set up, not all stacked on top of each other, so can all have different angles to observe how GEEKAY may approach this fight. But again, this is the story of Sanhok Bootcamp because we're always in this bit of a stalemate where everyone is just waiting for the other to make a move.
And while all of this stalemate happens, the rest of these teams, they're rotating, Monica. They're making work happen when it comes to the map, and already these squads have begun to rotate slightly further down. Now RTG have come to the trifecta below boot camp as well, Painan beginning to be taken up, the L compound too. So minus this fight, even whoever wins will have a hard time continuing getting into this zone regardless. The fight still is in pursuit, although it does seem to have quietened down for the meantime.
Quiet indeed in boot camp, just kind of the odd shots back and forth just to, I think, just apply some pressure and not allow, letting them know, hey, I'm watching this angle, don't come this way, just to not give them any more room. Late, he's got this really close angle on the outskirts, has not found any inch of GEEKAY at all. As Lath, I mean, he's just waiting here. Maybe Gaith hasn't gotten close enough to give away the footsteps, but Lath versus Gaith. I mean, I'm hoping a 1v1 might come out from this.
Still, I think it's going to have to be a few moments away. Is both of them, again, as we said, holding their position. I mean, they both have a good spot for now, not willing to give it up, waiting for the other, saying you have to move into us. And it is correct for YALLA to hold this position because they are technically more sensitive to that zone. So GEEKAY, the onus is on them to continue to move, despite the fact that overall the four walls of that protection of the lobster do help GEEKAY in the fight in the micro fact itself. But for the rest of these positions inside of the game, as we said, about being taken up. Now SKYROCKET, they've held down the L compound for now. GEEKAY Gaip as well, being caught back out in. I thought this would be a bit longer here of a position, Monica, but in the meantime, regardless, it's GEEKAY who seem to have lost their secondary member.
Gaith, unfortunately, being eliminated out of this fight, now leaving only a 3 versus 3 in bootcamp. SKYROCKET, I think they've identified there's somebody here waiting here, and you can see them all clustered together using their strength in numbers. Both of them come on through the doorway. Two of them do get knocked as Delhap. Why didn't he continue to commit through the shot through the door? And I think in the animation of getting up, just got knocked instead. So fatal errors on that side of Rad.
And Rad are trying to punish, of course. They say, well, we've got a few knocks here. Can we do much more with it? Well, no. They get themselves back up. They defend for now, and Desha has to step back away.
Good thing for SKYROCKET, especially having control of this intersection of all the rivers and islands in Sanhok. So no matter where the circle shifts, it going on the north side, staying on the main island, or coming down to the south, it's going to, they're going to have entry, clean entry into either way through the bridges, and they're going to be able to gatekeep and potentially clean off a lot of eliminations of teams rotating on by. Still though, this boot camp engagement, 3 versus 3, but now R8 and Road to Glory are starting to come into the picture and might have some sightlines on the stalemate in the center.
Look, I mean, this stalemate is making me grow old, Monica. I want to see some action by these teams for now. We're allowing the rest of these players all continuing to allow a position themselves, bettering their own position around YALLA, around GEEKAY. And it really does hurt both of these teams, I think, more than they really appreciate, because R8 now also looking over as that third party really, I think, hurts more so the position of YALLA, considering that, again, R8, as we say, can just continue to look down, and when the positions do begin to move inside this next fight that will eventually break out by both of these teams, R8 will be there to quick to punish.
See, in the blue zone, we still have the only one way out. That is Curd 12, starting to come towards the bridges circle. Does center up one more time over the Painan area. So it's looking to probably come off of boot camp soon. So YALLA, GEEKAY, they're going to need to clean this fight up very quickly. Even still on the outskirts, Pride, they didn't land in Kampong, but instead on the outskirts towards the center of the circle. Looks like maybe setting a trap to Falcons, saying, hey, you know, you denied us the points in the last couple of Sanhoks, holding us into that city. We're going to now do the same to you, as Pride now finds the first knock on the Falcon.
Gonna be potentially Falcons here also losing their lives, but in the meantime, GEEKAY, they have been, as we said, slowly walking forward, slowly buying the space, checking, building by building their own position. Now, Life, very far away, does have an angle through that down the climb between the two sides of the buildings. But GEEKAY, too wise to, of course, go down into the choke point, will continue to hold further back and potentially bait out, I think, YALLA from trying to go one direction, hoping, and then come around the next from a wider point, as they seem to, of course, cannot find an exit onto YALLA for now. The rest of these teams have, as we said, continued to move further forward in on this phase 2 now. Really, as you said, that quarry, that Painan side, very much taken up by a lot of these teams.
It's definitely a very open area. Curd 12, we saw them come down further on that south, or actually northwestern island, but they have identified there's somebody waiting here, and that's going to be SKYROCKET. These are both two teams kind of on the last bottom half of the overalls. We do see Frozen finding that member of Falcon. Oh man, the bad man, just trying to save as much ammo as possible and just single tapping him back into the lobby. But back on here, again, Curd 12, SKYROCKET, they're one after each other, because they're both two teams that did not qualify into last Super Weekend.
And I think for SKYROCKET, they've had a fantastic position here with the control this L compound, particularly in a game like this where the zone does go down to the South Island. You are looking at that being in more control. We do also have to note on the other side of it, though, that actually this is still very much in the favor of that main island too. So it's about really a 40-60 chance, and this phase 3 is still volatile enough to where it can go either direction. But as YALLA, volatile indeed, have caught themselves in a fight versus GEEKAY. They both finally found each other, but again, they both don't want to engage further. Life, though, caught out more so than the rest of GEEKAY, will at least be able to fire back enough of the pressure for now to send GEEKAY running. But as Life is under fire from R8, as we said, the movement begins to show. The third party also shows up too.
GEEKAY should be able to identify this happened right here. They saw a knock. I mean, there's vague information to know who it was exactly, but they heard the shots with the M4 come down from the hillside. Oh, Bomba, his head caught out over the top of the window, thought he was in safety, but was actually not. So YALLA now down to only one as GEEKAY. I mean, this is the first time I've seen them really come in with the help of R8. So maybe they need to, you know, send a thank you card over to R8's side, but POWR now coming on the northern side. This is proving very disastrous for GEEKAY.
And this is why this fight going on for so darn long, Monica, really hurts these two teams in boot camp. They haven't had a chance to loot up as much, either of them. They don't have the utility. They've used a lot of that already. And now a full angry squad of POWR coming in here, cleaning up both of these two teams. This was why YALLA did shift away in the spring season from boot camp, because this type of thing happens so many times. You see two teams fight it out of boot camp.
I mean, all these teams in the lobby know these two teams are stalemated here. GEEKAY, though, is going to be 2 left alive on top of the stairway. POWR is coming over, does get put down to his knees as another ascends the stairway, trying to join in on this fight, but GEEKAY, they're just going to have to play this a little bit more passively and try not to get knocked.
GEEKAY gonna fall to their unfortunately demise. Here's the first team out, a complete opposite from the rest of the day they have been having. They try to, of course, take POWR away, but it's not out of the woods yet by POWR, nor, of course, YALLA, who, down to a solo player, don't really have anywhere that they can move. And the zone has moved away from both of these teams, and therefore now are in a very powerful position to continue to keep them there.
I guess we can put this winner tally in YALLA's box but I mean, we had a couple variables of POWR and R8 spoiling the direct fight between them. R8, though, they have the high vantage point of the boot camp hill just to the south of boot camp. They might be able to pick off a couple more eliminations if they keep their eyesights onto POWR from down below, and it looks like they're keeping ID7 to watch the team as the others step foot a little bit further into the circle and try to find a foothold for the rest of them to follow.
And such a difficult zone to decide now where it really will go. You could argue that, well, mainly the quarry side is more open, does have more advantages. Now there's that trifecta of the roads connecting south of boot camp into the few buildings in amongst the quarry, also splits off the road in towards Painan. That is still available for these teams. Is also RTG versus Triple. Maybe might be a fight that breaks out, but on the other hand, 4K and also NIGMA both finding each other on their own rotation on this South Island itself, as we say. Now coming in on that edge of the road. NIGMA, though, in control for the most part of this fight, but still, it's 4K firing back, but not for much longer. That nade will finish off the aggression 4K were beginning to have, and now Lord steps further in. Anaconda, the only one here left remaining in all of NIGMA, know it.
When a team like NIGMA Galaxy, such a high fragging team, is able to identify what team they're fighting against, sometimes if they're able to see 4K, okay, this is one of the lower half teams, we're going to play even more hyper aggressively than if it was a team like GEEKAY, like FALCONS, one of those stronger teams. So I think that's really, we're seeing a lot of even more aggression we would normally see coming out of NIGMA Galaxy, because they know it is 4K and they know it's you know, I hate to say it, it's easy kind of pickings for them to add to their tallies, because NIGMA Galaxy, after having 2 0-point games today, really needs to rack up those points. This circle, though, it's shifting right onto Painan. So all the teams committed into the city are going to need to brace for impact, as everyone is going to be converging in the central position.
It's a big shift. We were looking for that action, Monica. Well, now it comes into formation. 4K will finally fall down. NIGMA flush it away, but there is so much more work that needs to be done. Painan now going to be the finishing point. There is that big hill, of course, there that RTG Triple will look to maintain control of, because coming down off that hill, a lot of that main kind of northeastern side is really unusable territory here, Monica, because it is so open, and a lot of the teams can, as we say, pincer not only from that hillside up to the north on that east flank, but also from Painan itself.
Pride, they've got 3 eliminations. I believe it was found on the likes of Falcon and other teams rotating past them. Now we have our top teams, Pride and NIGMA Galaxy, right next to each other. As I mean, it's kind of underrated, the car rotations in Sand, because you can get somewhere real fast. There's not too many vehicle spawns, but Major Pride so heavy in eliminations, but now putting multiple players in the same vehicle, racing past all these teams and trying not to get shot out and exploded onto, like Herd 12 did in the last game.
And you could see the cluster of those teams beginning to form majorly, of course, on that Southwest Island side. Major Pride have completely circumvented NIGMA, and now they control the location that NIGMA exited out on. However, Major Pride are pinned slightly down, and they will fall down to half HP, but Lord just cannot find the shots, and they needed those type of shots. So keep in mind, even behind them, Yen is still there behind.
Somehow NIGMA Galaxy has allowed Major Pride to just completely rotate right in front of them and steal the spot away. Raul, he's going to be up close and personal, but he is by his lonesome with a grenade, trying to bounce it, trying to find the connection onto Nomi while he pulls the pin as well. So NIGMA Galaxy is pretty spread out here, and they're not able to support each other as the blue zone dust starts to envelop. Nomi, though, getting knocked to his knees and getting traded out. This time, NIGMA Galaxy is going to be a 2 versus 1.
And Major, they might have been off what we can chew again as well. Just couldn't find those back shots inside the zone. NIGMA, they're on the edge of it either way, but they'll make it work. Milky Way, however, has healed back up. Now has the health advantage overall. Has the smoke to play around. But I don't believe any utility there to be able to fire down onto Lord's face. So we'll be able to survive for now. Raul going in, trying to use his body for information, and they do so successfully. Freak will be able to lock down the shots as a result. Raul gonna find Milky Way as well, and that's now where Lord can fire down upon. It's brilliant use of a knocked man by NIGMA to veteranly clean up the rest.
He's crawling using that in-game marker. Enemy right here, right here, right here, and just spam press to get in. They're able to find him out. So out goes Major Pride up on top. They'll skyrocket in the midst of Painan on top of the stairwell. Everyone is trying to evict them out of here, but Kurd 12, only 1 casualty as they try to clean this one up. Skyrockets, though, does inevitably fall to Kurd 12.
And a disastrous shift from a Painan finish. It's gone completely skywards in towards the mainland. Sanhok and POWR, they need to move, but YALLA, they're there. They're going to take each other out. The zone finishes YALLA off, but POWR, they are out of the zone. R8 are going to come out ahead of them. And now, although they have the most, or almost the most eliminations here with 6, they have nowhere to go. They're locked out of this zone. And it's up to R8 to do the work to finish them off. It's a blue zone in hand with them. They have everything to finish POWR.
Such a tough spot on this northern side as you have so many teams congested on top of each other. Road to Glory are, I mean, the ones who are so good at Sanhok just right in the edges, but I think they're dwindled down in numbers. This time POWR and RA just taking each other out with the blue zone being this eliminating factor on the side. R8, though, they need to get in because the circle has now shifted away.
A big shift into the absolute middle of nowhere, Monica. It is a completely disastrous zone for all of these final teams. It's just up to the rest of those close enough to the zone to be able to hold off what position they can. NASR, in a good position though, do have the only compound available in this south side of zone, and it's up to them realistically here, who should have an eye out on this zone. But the snakes in the grass can still have an effect. An RTG, unknown, punishes R8 for their unwittingly ability to be able to spot naps.
Snakes in the grass now. Road to Glory, only 1 left stand. It's gonna be Nabu, their in-game leader. Can he clutch it up here with the entirety of R8 descending the mountainside and trying to be pest control to get them out of their vicinity? POWR is still hanging on by the skin of their teeth, though, as Twisted Minds is now taken out by the solo of Road to Glory.
It's a big dive in. Prestige gets behind the next rock throw in time, but we're still not inside the zone. NASR now in the fight versus Falcons. So all but know they have to make the move count, and they get the shots onto Miracle. They'll find the elimination, but not before Never Alone falls down to Gringo. The nade will go wide, and NASR clean up the fight indeed. 3 eliminations for now, but Falcons are still not out of it yet. They will continue to heal through Yusuf in hope that they can outlive the rest, as it's all about the healing strategy, baby, because there's 3 solos. 1 will fall down. Falcons will be the 5th position. But look at it again. NASR, yes, they may be in lead, but here is NIGMA. Always finding that healing position, and Freak is just making it work again.
If you remember from yesterday, the Road to Glory win, we had 1 member of NIGMA Galaxy way out in the blue zone and just meting up for an eternity and made it into second place. It's still 7 minutes. It was forever and ever, and he was out here. So I want to see how many first aids he has. But NASR, they've got the lower hill. They now finally need to leave this compound that's gifted them so much time. But R8, they are going to be uphill and looking down as they run.
Like, NIGMA, I don't know how they do it, but they are the masters of a healing strategy here on Sanhok. Freak, he's still going, man. I don't think he's going to run out anytime soon. I believe if Freak could keep going through this zone, the damage to the blue zone is high enough there. He was far away, which I was going to say could cause him to fall. Dar will also fall as well.
Wow.
And R8's the only one next. I mean, Prestige, they've done well for themselves, but this is the end of the line, I'm afraid, in the zone. We'll take them away. And NASR secure themselves a chicken dinner of Sanhok today. And you said, Monica, they needed a chicken dinner. They were one of the few teams in the top 8 not to have one. Well, now they do.
They're following the patterns of Major Pride, right? Major Pride got second place, so close getting the chicken dinner, but wasn't able to get in the first 2 games. And then NASR in that last Erangel match, you saw them get second place after GEEKAY, robbed of the win, but now they've gotten it here. And I was saying wow because there was NIGMA Galaxy. If Freak had one more first aid, right, that 3 seconds maybe, he would have been 1 higher placement over that last member of POWR. So it's just all in timing and those utilities that you can collect.
Yeah, right. I mean, just so far out the zone, of course, the further you're away in that blue, the more damage the blue does from the zone itself. So NASR, although all of those healing strategies do claim through the chicken dinner, and 20 points in total for them. R8 clawing their way back on that leaderboard with 18, but POWR, another good game by them here. And Monica, POWR beginning to try surge themselves away from the bottom of that leaderboard.
I bet they starting to get that caffeine kick from the monsters that they drank during the break. And NIGMA Galaxy, even though they only finished out in 4th place, they still had the highest number of eliminations of any team in the lobby. So great for them, still playing aggressive and still getting a 15-point game. So now they've kind of, I guess, diluted the 0-point game, but they're still kind of just averaging, very average in total across these 4 matches played today.
In Curve 12 as well, Falcons at least getting into that top 8. Of course, Falcons, a double-digit game for them. But as we check out, of course, that second page of the match rankings, it was, again, a little bit skewed, where a few points here or there for most of these teams. Of course, GEEKAY, YALLA, a major fight that did happen. And though it was slow, it did catch out both of them in the end. And GEEKAY and YALLA will go home with only 2 points total each. I think, when is it the time, though, that YALLA and GEEKAY will consider other options, Monica? Because they fight for so long, about 10 minutes plus these last 2 days. And you saw it here first in this match. Teams just come in, later rotation, and say, well, you're still here fighting. Let me just help you and clean you up.
Let me just help myself. And that's exactly what POWR and R8 said. I think GEEKAY, they're sitting real strong. 5 chicken dinners and super weekends, #1 team right now. So they can kind of afford this little mishap in Sanhok a little bit more. But I think going into finals, if they are still there, they're going to need to come up with a different decision.
Yeah, indeed, as we're going into our final game of Erangel. But before that, we're going back to the best of moments and a break once more.
If you had my life, work like me, had them stripes, would you go hard?
One more game to go in the second day of the second Super Weekend here at the PMPL Arabia Full Split. Myself, Hyland Wolf, and Monica join with you. But of course, one more time, we've got to say that beautiful vote down below should be appreciated. And buy one up with the upgraded fun and upgraded performance. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G, the designated smartphones for PUBG Mobile Middle East and Africa Esports 2022. Also, if you want, of course, that phone, what else do you need to go with it? Is a drink once more, Monica. It's Monster Energy, the designated energy drink partner for the PMPL Arabia. Monica, we've only got one more match, though, as I said. And these teams, they need to keep their energy still pocket clean because they have a lot of work to do here on Erangel.
A team that is definitely flying high and performing so well today is going to be GEEKAY. They've won 2 of the 2 Erangel matches that we've seen today. So this is their, third time's the charm, but they definitely don't need any more charm because they've already gotten 2 out of their 5 chicken dinners this entire Super Weekend. They just got it today in Erangel. I mean, it's their bread and butter, just like Road to Glory. They didn't win the last Sanhok, but their bread and butter was definitely Sanhok before last match, before NASR did steal it away.
Yeah, of course, we are heading very shortly in onto our game. Keep in mind, if you want to keep an eye out and keep us tuned, use that hashtag PMPL Arabia because, of course, we want to know who you are thinking is going to be at the top of the standings at the end of all our 5 matches today, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, of course, as well. Monica, I'm going to put it to you, the impossible question, okay? Who do you think has this last game under the bag?
I want to say Major Pride. I think they've gotten 2 different matches stolen away from them. That was the first game and the second game today where they got 13 massive eliminations each. I think they're really just on edge to win a match finally.
Gotta see if they can make it, though. They've been close enough. One more Erangel game to go here for Major's chances. I do believe that Major probably have done a lot today to, I think, secure a chicken dinner. I mean, GEEKAY, they've been holding it all, as we said. 2 chicken dinners so far today. But at 16th position on Sanhok was not the same result. So they are going to need to come back strong.
Coming up strong, this plane path right down the center one more time. And we've had very easy plane paths so far in Erangel. We haven't seen any kind of extreme, just, sending a team way out of their comfort zone to try to rotate somewhere. I want to see, though, we've seen 2 very central circles so far, Hyland Wolf, today, and I want to see something a little more crazy, a little bit more exciting.
You want to see something crazy? I mean, to be fair, right, we're both on the desk, and we've not seen any real crazy zones so far. I mean, we had the hard shifts, right? Like, there were a couple hard shifts, but there's been no, brutally insane zone bar, I think, Sanhok. There has been a little bit up there in terms of difficulty. Of course, GEEKAY, when we talked about those 2 chicken dinners as well, Monica, I forgot to actually realize that it's been on both Erangels today so far. So GEEKAY are clearly the favorites coming in onto this game. However, we do get a little bit of a different shift here on this first phase. It has gone this time towards the west.
Okay, we saw I want to say it was South Georgia Pole Circle yesterday. We saw ones before that kind of hugged that Western Bridge potentially. These teams that are going in here, Major Pride, I mean, they're getting, look how split up they are now. Usually they only go to that hospital kind of South Georgia Pole area, but they know the other teams, that they don't even drop in their general vicinity. So they're doing such a massive split here. 1 in the Georgia Pole crates, 2 going for vehicles out wide as we flip onto Curd 12 going up into that Milta area. So Curd 12 is going to have quite the ways to rotate, and they're losing some time here because they're even so driving to Milta to loot just to drive back to get in that next circle.
It's going to be a long rotation for a couple of those teams who always going to want to go towards that eastern end. As NASR maybe do lose themselves one here, barely getting away by that vehicle for the meantime. 4K will not strike down Miracle just yet. Too far away for the shots as they come out of the view distance, but for, I think, teams coming on, as we said, to that eastern side, squads like RTG, teams like Hiroso, Rad, the only one who already have to take a long route in towards that eastern end, gonna be, I think, more efficient a game required from them because they do obviously have to come back in onto this zone. I'm still a big believer of the South Island. I mean, I have to stop my words, okay, because I'm just saying we haven't seen a glider all tournament. RTG. Oh no! Don't tell me they're gonna take the car. No, that's so boring. Take the glider, Vol. I hope they take that glider. I want to see it used. There we go.
I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what happened. Bolt spent the big money, got the supercar skin. His teammate does not have it, so he just stopped his glider to give his teammate the skin because it doesn't switch out.
That's the
and
IQ.
Then he's gonna take it. So Volt, great teammate. That's what we can give him. Yeah, best teammate in this lobby.
Taking the money of the vehicle for his teammate. RTG though, Volt, I mean, he's flying. I could just watch this all day. This is like, you know those videos where you go to sleep and they sell all the smooth things to you? Well, I mean, never mind the case, Val. I was gonna say, it's just like so tranquil. But I mean, when you fall like that, Volt, you really just ruin the experience.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any cushion bags, or I hope his seatbelt was plugged in.
It was a hard landing.
We haven't seen the gliders in PMPL yet, and I think for good reason. Players. Oh, it's just so hard to. I think he's like,
someone turn the camera off, like someone change the camera, please.
Revoke his flying license. I think this is just he's like, yeah, I just gotta go for the coupe and take the normal way of rotating.
Look, it was beautiful for only a moment, but all reminded why the glider, I think, is probably not as well used in the PMPL.
Oh, everything that goes up must come down, I guess. So, Bo, I think you just want to go for the memes, you know, the lulls of using a glider in PMPL, even if it was only for 5 seconds in the air.
I mean, we caught it on camera. We know that he needs his driving license. I know, exactly. I mean, 4K. They're also there. I mean, okay, all right. Gonna also take away the buggy for the motorbike. What type of vehicle, would you be like preferred to using, Monica? I mean, I know you coached, teams before. What would you like recommend to them as like the best vehicle to go for?
I always saw players that really emphasize using the buggies. Even though they are back-wheel drive, blowing up the back tires, you can't drive it anymore. It's just way easier and lower profile than kind of the Dacias, the UAZs of the world. You're able to just kind of really roll in. You know, if you have a hill and it's just not even that high, a buggy's a little bit less obvious that you're parked there. You just one person lay a little bit prone behind it, and you can be a little bit more sneaky incognito. So I'd say a buggy.
Do you know what they haven't introduced in Erangel that I think they need to introduce? Okay, can you guess it? Guess the vehicle, Monica.
A 4-seater glider.
Oh, that's an idea. Like, I wasn't thinking that, but like Tencent, you heard it here first, Monica. Like the idea, copyrighted by Monica, 4-seater glider.
Let me just patent the idea right now.
Exactly. You have to get the license for it. I mean, it's got to happen. You know, you like touching on my one true love of the glider, but the real one true love that I have for Miramar that I would love to see on Erangel is the Beat bus. I mean, I feel like the bus is not utilized as much, and we go way back. Like, me and the Beat bus, we have so much history, Monica. It's like a true romance novel.
I call the Scooby-Doo van because there was some skins that looked like the the purple greens of the Scooby-Doo. Like that's what I call it, Scooby-Doo van.
See, I quite like it when you get the things like the bear, the bear skin on
the grizzly bear
bus. Exactly, grizzly bear. See, you're thinking along the same lines as me. See,
available in game until July 5th.
Still, not gonna see the grizzly bear too much from Anas here. A bit of a disappointment by that purple vehicle, but either way, I'll forgive it. Not gonna have to beat bus here in Erangel. Is all of these teams of course have been continuing to move in while we speak about our nonsense, Monica, and they've all kind of mostly gotten in onto this first phase zone. Bar, of course, RTG Rad, still very far away. 4K still also gonna be around that kind of mansion side, but for the most part, teams were already set to go for this second phase. I'm kind of eyeing up that Everest point that I think a lot of teams haven't really looked at specifically. I'm thinking maybe GEEKAY are now going to go for it, though, as we can see.
I think a lot of these teams, and we've seen this beyond Sanhok, was the one outlier. Most of these teams now, they're playing seriously right now, right? We've seen a little bit scuffles in league play where some teams are contesting each other or landing a little bit too close or kind of unsure with the groups of who's landing right by them. These 16 teams now, they know where they're landing. They are hyper aware where everyone else lands, and they like to just stay away from everyone else, at least for this first part. Like we're on to almost the 9-minute mark in this match. No one has seen anyone yet except a couple shots from 4K onto the likes of NASR when they were grabbing the vehicle spawn. But other than that, you know, it is very uneventful now, but that's just setting ourselves up for a real, true, massive team fights in the later stages.
One of these teams very close together, of course, as well. Now, I like that GEEKAY have taken this Everest point. The reason why I mention it is because, again, you want that information, right? There's no real idea of where this zone is going to go for now. And as Phase 2 does begin to close in, we will begin to see that idea of how teams need to rotate and where it needs to go. It's very central, though. And this is, again, another problem for these squads, though, Monica, because it doesn't actually tell us a whole lot. Yes, it tells us it's not going to be on the south or, of course, that north side. But apart from this, very much GATCAT and the entirety of that main eastern land is all in use.
Somehow, NIGMA Galaxy has once again just been so slow on the rotate of Pachinki. They've allowed teams like the only one to come in from the far eastern sides of the map to rotate in front of them now, more central than them in the Gatka area. Rad is another one of those latecomer teams and deciding to come on the southern side of Pachinki, now going through the fields. Good timing from them because NIGMA Galaxy is not in the general vicinity at all anymore to take those shots at them. But here we have, this was the compound that proved so fruitful for Major Pride, was able to get so many eliminations that first match today.
I mean, of course, NIGMA spying out, of course, again, their own compound too beside it, where GEEKAY, of course, did get that chicken dinner earlier in the day. So they do have a position for themselves, but it's going to be, of course, very at ease with also the only one taking up shots as perhaps a neighboring compound here. YALLA taking those shots indeed against RTG, but will not find anyone. But RTG rolling out of the frying pan, but into the fire here of the only one as the nade goes in. Navo immediately turns the other direction, but they need the support of the team beginning finally to close around. The box, it is the only one's compound, but they still need to come in further.
And they're getting third-partied actually from the back-end side to the likes of either NIGMA Galaxy or POWR on the other side. The only one now, their house is being burned to a crisp as POWR is actually joining in here. Finally gets the knock on to Nabo, the in-game leader for Road to Glory. I wouldn't be surprised if POWR came crashing up, guns a-blazing to join in on this fight. But Road to Glory, I mean, their Road to Glory is looking to end here, but he swipes through the window and finds a knock with the Thompson and is continuing this fight in the blues.
And RTG, a big entrance on in. I mean, that really should not have been allowed by the only one. Finally, they send a utility, but they were hesitant to send it, of course, earlier. RTG, who just were allowed to waltz in, Volt getting the 1-for-1, and now the only one down to 3 players.
The only one forgot to put in some security cams and alarms as Road to Glory came into the window side. Nabu tried to go for the revive onto J9, but was also caught in the open from the likes of POWR. So Volt, I mean, he's now put as his only one. From the mishaps with the glider to now under fire from POWR and the only one. This is turning out to be such a disastrous game for Road to Glory.
And it just feels like POWR is this third-party team, Monica. It just seems to come in at the right times and get the eliminations, the work done. Allows now the only one to step further forward. And that fancy vehicle won't save you any more Volts because of the problems that sends you packing.
I think it was just an off game from the start after that experience with the glider, and they just couldn't seem to recover from it. NIGMA Galaxy, that was right on next to them, they want to dip their toes into the water, and they saw the fights, and it looks like it's the Molotov to open up the fight with the only one.
They get problems down. It is a disastrous turn of events for the only one who don't have the players, they don't have the positions. The ad will also drop. Luffy is absolutely nowhere to go. Maybe maybe they should take the vehicle and hightail it out of there, but they'll hightail it even faster out of the game as a whole because NIGMA send them to death.
As always, a bigger fish in the sea, and this time it's going to be NIGMA Galaxy, be the shark to eat all of them. The only one finding themselves in the same fate as Road to Glory is switching now over to the southern Gatka area. R8 and SKYROCKET next to each other in this long drawn-out compound. We may see a fight happen just yet, and again, this region, they use utilities so well and really use it to open up the fights.
It's all every time you see the grenades, the mollies, the smokes being used to begin, of course, that positional game really between the fights as well. Monica, you know, these teams are trying to create as much space as possible for each other. But either caught by, of course, a brilliant angle laid by the edge of the window by SKYROCKET. We'll send them back for now. Brings it down to a slower fight for R8's aggression. And that buys time, of course, for SKYROCKET to kind of close out R8 together. Finds now the second as they do begin to close together, and that will be the go station. You can see SKYROCKET, they know they've got the knocks on board, but it's about trying to finish it off. Bandar trying to lay them back to Smoke Road, slows SKYROCKET down for either SK Ton to get there in time. The SKYROCKET, no sense of slowing down. Maybe that one nade will do at least enough. Salam will be the unfortunate piggy to walk in onto the explosion for the meantime. The rest of them, here are the wolves of SKYROCKET closing in on the fight.
I'm thinking, what is Prestige doing all the way on the wayside of SKYROCKET? They got the first two knocks, and one does get reset up, but the numbers are not into their advantage. They're looking just to make a quick escape as SKYROCKET. They have R8 cornered into the shack on the outhand side. Just get a nix of him, trying to get a knock too, and gets traded on out. So SKYROCKET's winning this compound for now, but casualties on both sides.
Yeah, right. I mean, R8, I think Prestige knew that they didn't want to really commit to that. I mean, if either goes down to when they were trying to regroup back members to make those revives, then they all fall as a team. Prestige maybe also could have been trying to bait them in onto that side to then come in later, but at the same time, right, they didn't fully commit, so SKYROCKET have that numbers advantage straight up, and even when you find a knock like that onto the initial member of SKYROCKET, it's still an even fight for them. They have, of course, the knocks already in their hands, and it just was SKYROCKET's game as Falcons here, Major Pride versus each other, but Major Pride inside the blue this time around, and the onus on them to make that push in.
I think Major Pride coming in from the South Georgia Pole area always thinks that this kind of rotation is completely for free. And the outlier here is Falcons from Yasnaya actually rotated way further up north and onto their side of the circle, further than they were even expecting. So they've caught with literally their pants down as now Pride. I mean, I wanted them to do a really good game here, but it looks like it is not setting themselves up well here as Milky Way. He is going to be looking down, trying to find the Falcons hiding in the trees, but I don't know if they are going to be able to recover from this one.
Major, they got a long road, and it seems like it's being cut short. Frozen will also fall as well. Nomi does get away, so the 3-man distraction was enough, but it was extremely costly. In fact, Nomi gonna recircle around here to try find a position of Falcons, but won't be able to stop it. Instead, we'll have to settle as a solo player here. Falcons beginning that revive inside the smoke, but there is no knowledge of it by the Major Pride member. Instead, only will be caught out by Demar, sneakily hiding above the hillside, and Major Pride are no more.
Nomi is definitely one of those players on his team that has the higher gun skill. I think it's just the animation of ejecting himself out of the car and such just wasn't quite enough time. But Kurt 12 is now crashing up onto our Kings of the Lobby.
No.
It's going to be GEEKAY. Oh no, they're all falling down like dominoes in Kurt 12. I'm not sure what was going on in their heads. You just way into a compound and into a rotation into the circle like that.
I don't know what it is about Cardwell, but today the 4-man 1 vehicle rotation, now again crashing in just into the choke point of the enemies. They need to go back, I think, to driving school, quite frankly. I will say it hard and clear because Cardwell have not looked great today.
Yeah, and you pointed out this is the second time they're just like, we're just gonna commit it all and just like a tank and just fly through the compound. It's just not working
Doesn't
out
work
for
like
them.
that.
And what's not work? I mean, I guess it could, but not in this instant. Twisted Minds now on the receiving end of all the grenades coming out from POWR Esports.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it works in the PMCOs. I mean, certainly not in the PMPLs this time around. POWR completely smoked up. Will dodge out an aid, sneakily done by Twisted Minds, but to no effect. So the reveal right now is Power already in the behind, but it's a battle of positions here as Dami also chucks in a second one, but moments they do. Ally is there to punish. Twisted Minds, of course, already lost one in the back already. So now it's down to 2. Are making a revive happen onto the 1 for now, but it's Power closing in slowly in this game. Al-Hahi will confirm out Dami, will remove the information, and Anas, no information left, no life left as Twisted Minds trying their best. Fadan looking for the 1 elimination point, but it's all he'll get is Power, up to now 7 themselves.
Man, Power just really showing us GEEKAY is there. Backyard. No one is going to take the spot from us as NIGMA Galaxy. Hearing the shots, using this as their opportunity to crash on up. The numbers are still not really in their favor, though, as we're going to come in with a 4 versus 4.
And for NIGMA, they are taking advantage like vultures this game on these previous fights. Freak straight on top of Dar, sends them back 1 for 1. Not cooked nade, so go keep themselves alive. Rauf also was caught on the sideline, so NIGMA maybe playing a bit over aggressive here if they do lose more, but Power Kanti are completely pinned. They need Al-Hahi to come and do some work to relieve themselves of this pressure, but neither of them can find this entrance on in.
NIGMA Galaxy, I mean, they're just like Major Pride. They play best when they're just hyper aggressive, just guns a-blazing, not quite like Crew 12, but a little bit more intention into it. They get the reset on to Rauf on the outskirts, as now YALLA coming in and joining the party on the other side. This is the hottest compound in the entire circle. We've got 3 massive teams all trying to share it.
And Power, they might have also been saved here by YALLA coming into NIGMA, but it will only be trying to outlive, realistically, NIGMA. Both of them in trouble. At least they will strike 1 more elimination point here as YALLA will lose, sacrifice 1.
Sacrifice 1 indeed. Now NIGMA Galaxy all pushed back a little bit. They've got all 4 left standing. Power has lost 1 in the meantime, as it's kind of who is going to turn the tides on the other favor. You want to be that 3rd team, right? You're the 3rd party onto the fight. You don't want to be in the midst of it. So whoever can get the timing right and keep their players left up standing will be great here. But on the outskirts, everyone else is using this distraction to get into the circle. But I mean, YALLA, they've got a little bit more spread out, but Power, they're actually split in half and are pretty isolated.
And the zone goes away for the majority of these players, so this fight has to be done quickly and efficiently. GEEKAY as well, rotating in behind. They tried, I think, to send at least 1 player in, but gets called out either way. 4K will fall down to Lord, and Satan is also just as equally pinned here by the side of NIGMA Galaxy, but has a big position to actually punish now down onto NIGMA. Losing the player there to Gaive now puts NIGMA in a very dire spot with YALLA and Power still here in the compound.
NIGMA Galaxy definitely picked the best corner to watch the entire field, and that's what they were going for, but they completely forgot about Power and YALLA to the wayside. Triple Esports onto the roof side, trying to find the landing. The shot this time, GEEKAY Gate with the SKS. Now finding Rad, just having such a unlucky hand as they're caught out in the field. And in this kind of open field and circle, Highland Wolf, you have to have the vehicles, you have to have the hard cover to try to get in, because if you're trying to run it on your open feet, it's not going to end well.
I mean, you can make that cover, as GEEKAY are also doing, using the vehicles to build almost a wall against the other players, if you like, inside of that main front side. Of course, getting with the buggy was exploding potentially there, being all smoked up, so avoiding the potential of being blown up indeed, but Satan still will fall anyways to Hamodi. Falcons also going to lose 1 as Damar and lose the rest of themselves as NASR just completely find them with their grenade.
I forgot NASR was in this match because I hadn't seen anything come out from them in the last while. Hamidy's still laying on the pain on to GEEKAY as we just have a couple vehicles, all the smokes plummeting about and trying to give them a little bit of cover. But I mean, our Titans from the gate, GEEKAY, are, I don't know, they're just caught out in the open, outside the circle. It goes away from them now as it's just hugging just the edge of the building that NIGMA Galaxy is in.
And Power are somehow still alive in this building, in this compound too. Have been so stealthy, finally make their move. Hamodi blowing into smithereens and sent out like Swiss cheese. Al-Hahi finds the elimination assassination. And Power have now the advantage in the midst of it all. But unfortunately for them, it's not over yet. They still need to continue to move. Phase 6 is on its way in. Neither YALLA or POWR are inside that space.
Esports trying to make their great escape into this circle. NASR using the distraction on the other side to slip their way in. Push still having that higher vantage point, but the roofs, it gives you the vantage points, but you are completely exposed. If any of those wayward sides for NASR off to the right are able to spot him out. He's looking over the top though. He sees GEEKAY smokes as they prove a trail, but I mean the smokes used now are being utilized that they can't use it into the late game.
Right, and there it is. Raz gets knocked, as you said, about being overexposed by NASR. Also, Life will be overexposed and get shot out by GEEKAY. Ringo fired back by Clever, as you can see on the elimination feed. As Satan will finish up himself. That's one way to do it. Is YALLA will also there help the rest of GEEKAY, because GEEKAY, they went to full set it in, and that was a problem here. But YALLA still will make it work against them. As Ragnar finds the shots, but they have been brutally bruised by the rest of YALLA for now, and it opens the door still here for NIGMA, for POWR. Is high stepping in, assassinates another once more, finally will go down, but look behind you, Kante, they spot him, they grab the second player. It is only now Dar alive, and they've lost the potential of the surprise as Freak still is up.
They've taken the fight, but at what cost? GEEKAY now mobilizing here the third party and collect up on the shambles of Enigma Galaxy and POWR. Here they go, going for the flushes, hitting those players as they are weak. Ragnar through the doorway takes quite a bit of damage himself, and it's just a little ring around the rosy around the walls of this building. Hamady is going to be on his feet and trying to find out this last player of GEEKAY.
NIGMA, they tried their best, but Ragnar finds the angle. As always, Ragnar does. But it's 10 eliminations for POWR Esports right now. They have slowly been picking these players off. They're in now to the top 4. It's a brilliant game. No matter how you spin it, they have been contested in that compound for this entire game. And Monica, to stay alive after all of those teams, YALLA and NIGMA who pushed against them, just speaks of how POWR have played so fantastically positioning wise.
POWR and GEEKAY being the prima donna of this show, just having all the attention onto them. And these two teams, both of them, I believe, are at the 10 elimination mark and trying to mop up some more on the teams over here. GEEKAY has one flushed out, but two of them, it's a 2v2 Highland Wolf, but they're running out of space.
Kante as well, trying to hold a position, but the nade over forces him back. Won't go down though. Crucial as they step back again, trying to find the angle as GEEKAY step further out, but it's the utility of GEEKAY that keeps him there, and the burning of the molly sends Kante away, but into the open arms. They find at least one for now. It's Satan. He's healing. He's taking a vehicle in phase 7, baby, and he's driving, but to nowhere, no avail. As GEEKAY will fall out in 4th, and it's 11 now, a 3rd position for POWR, but it's a fight that I believe here is all for NASR and triple for the chicken.
That's quite bold to try to use a vehicle this late in the game where all eyes are on you, and it did not work out so well with GEEKAY, so put to the end by the likes of POWR. Now NASR still all 4 up. Very quiet game coming out from them, but they're bringing in all 4 players just like Triple Esports. POWR in shambles as now the fight breaks out between Triple Esports and NASR in the open fields of GEEKAY.
Trying to bring together themselves, but their dark gets caught out. POWR finally wiped off, but it was a fantastic game by them. 11 eliminations, their 3rd position. They will be happy with that. Triple and NASR, the final 2 teams to fall. Now Push finds the angle, of course, already onto the one of the members of NASR. They laid out the smoke, so forced to use a bit more utility for now. But both of them still at the standstill as both of them enter on into the zone. Phase 8. Where will it shift?
Hard to get a reset in this late parts of the game, but NASR is able to do it. They're able to return the pain right back to fold onto Triple Esports, just spraying through the wheat of the grasses and trying to find those hit markers. Now it is going to be both sides, 2 players in total knocked, 1 on either side, and throwing the utility. Somehow they still have it, but the Molotov, oh my god.
We'll find it. We'll grab it indeed, and Monica, NASR, they might have just failed Inside a molly itself, the utility is there, but they're not out yet. They'll find two by miracle. Steps up, sits back down, tries to keep himself alive. Vehicle is there still, will be a mega target, but he is the only one remaining. Miracle is trying to make it work, almost finds the next. Behind the vehicle, it is risky indeed. Does Triple know it? They are looking for the push in. Your ass clever. They are looking for the eyes for Ali to be able to find that position. And a molly comes through, but it's short. And that is disastrous for Triple as they get caught in the animation of swapping back to the weapon. And Push is now the only one alive. And it's 2 up for now NASR.
Triple Push trying to find his teammates, and you're not going to be able to get a revive anyone here though. It's a 1 versus 2 now, as anyone bleeding on now. They know they're clustered somewhere over here. They're trying to cam in. He's trying to bide himself some time as they last one.
NASR looking, hunting, searching for Push inside a bushes, has nowhere to go, and NASR will claim a back-to-back chicken dinners to end off our second day and earn that second $1,000.
This is the second time we've seen it where the knocked player is utilized as a tool, as the eyes. Just, you know, there's no hope of reviving him at all. So he's just going to crawl closer and closer to the enemy to find the solo and just mark, spam mark. He's right here. He's right here. He's right here. And his teammates trusting and just spraying in that generous. I think we saw it from Major Pride in Sanhok against NIGMA Galaxy. And we saw it here to win out this last match for NASR.
Yeah, I mean, NIGMA utilized it well. So do NASR. They know how to play like true veterans, these two teams. But of course, keep in mind, you have to look at their triple having a good result. That second position too, Monica. They needed those points, but so importantly did Power as we check out those match rankings, because all of them here inside of this top 4, should I say, is a 21 points go to Power there, because GEEKAY also matched those 11 eliminations. And even though they went out in 4th, do score more than triple because of that aggression.
Again, that compound Power. Whenever it's in a Gatka area, Power that lands in that area, they are not having to rotate too far at all. And they definitely picked the hottest compound in that end circle, because we saw so many teams trying to roll up and crash up into it. And they were able to, at the end, take out GEEKAY, as both of them were forced to evade or evict themselves out of the premise. But NASR, even though they didn't get that many eliminations, remember we shifted onto them and they were at 4 eliminations and there was maybe 5 teams left.
Right.
It was really at the very end, just mopping up all of the ones in the end.
It was still excellent plays by NASR, by triple equally. But as we check out our second page, and it's a slow, I think, game again by, I think, some of the same teams that we've seen all day, kind of. They haven't been able to pick up these points. It have been almost left to the wayside, Monica.
On the wayside, I thought Major Pride, this was their time to shine, but I think they kind of lost the momentum after that second match of getting 2 second places in a row with a massive amount of elimination. I mean, I think they just weren't expecting Falcons to rotate all the way over there. But enough about this match. Let's take a look at the overalls that everybody wants to see.
And GEEKAY very much ahead of the game to NASR, to NIGMA in that second, third position. But Major Pride now in 4th position overall. Of course, Twisted Minds, who didn't have that great of a day, do fall down to that 5th position. And it's instead also left away behind them to Triple with that their final game now into 6th position and outperforming YALLA and R8.
It's very heartbreaking to see a team that does so well last weekend, like we saw, like you mentioned, Twisted Minds, and then just not really show up today. However, NASR, they finally showed up. They were hovering on that middle pack. Remember, they're in the top 8, but 0 chicken dinners until they got 2 chicken dinners in a row in Sanhok, and then this match just now. So $2,000 going their way from just chicken dinners. And they've now ascended higher than Major Pride, Twisted Minds, even NIGMA Galaxy, who's still hanging in there. But there's still, look at that, not quite 60 points, just shy of it. Point difference between GEEKAY and NASR.
Yeah, I mean, certainly in at least that first page, of course, the eliminations, the aggression is still going both towards GEEKAY majorly. But I think also to note that the over 100 eliminations by Major Pride there in 4th position, they're second to the rest of these teams. As you can see, that the eliminations are why Major are ahead of a lot of those other ones, whereas the placement points, something that Major have struggled to contend with. And I think that speaks to their very aggressive first 2 games, right? Where then they had the last 3 matches that they just didn't perform well overall placement wise.
Onto the second pages of the overalls. Remember, you need to be in top 16 to try to qualify for finals, and we are currently one more day of this super weekend with one more next week. But POWR, I mean, they had such a great game that last one, even though they only ended up in third, but having a massive amount of eliminations.
Yeah, I think POWR have absolutely outdone themselves recently. I mean, they climbed from, I believe it was about that 14th position moniker today to now that 9th spot. So,
Yes.
of course, they are surpassing, right? OOREDOO. Of course, they're surpassing CONQUEROR, who aren't playing to defend their position, but they're still outperforming majorly a lot of these other teams who are competing beside them. And in RTG, 4K, 2 of the teams that started in this Super Weekend last week in that top 8. 4K started the first day, remember, on last week in that top position. Now down to 11 is a big drop for them. And coming up to those results further down on, of course, that next page where these 3 new teams playing in the Super Weekend are catching up. Falcons only 1 point away from making it
Oh.
inside of that top 16.
I was wondering how close they were because keep in mind these teams on this page here have 15 less games than all the teams that
Exactly.
you saw just now. So to catch up in just 10 matches for the Falcons to have almost the same number of points as, what was it, 90th didn't make it the year, but they're
the
slowly
only
catching
one.
up, right? So
Yeah.
they're doing the work in 2 weekends and only one.
I mean, certainly it's been a lot of climbing to do from these teams. I think SKYROCKET as well, 72 points there for them, definitely making the work happen. And about 100 point per Super Weekend is kind of what a decent result is overall. So both of them heading in towards that spot. I think certainly though, both of these teams, particularly SKYROCKET and Kurt, have more to do. But if you want something more in-game yourself, you can check out our Grizzly Bear card collection, of course, heading up towards the 6th of July will be the final date that you can join a card collection draw and win outfits. There's a chance to get all the pieces of an item in one go, so do be sure to check it out. There are only a few days left, really, Monica, because we're in the 1st of July now. There's only a short time for these teams and for these players, of course, you at home, to be able to pick up those prizes.
Yeah, get it while it's available for sure. The newest outfit, newest crate in PUBG Mobile. This has been such a action-packed day, Highland Wolf. Day number 2, and it did not disappoint.
Did not disappoint indeed. But we'll be back with you, of course, same time, same place tomorrow for our final day of the second Super Weekend. Myself, and Monica once more, and we'll see you guys then.